Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the 2025 CVAL Championship. It's now day 2 of week 2, and things have already been going crazy in the bracket. But before we go any further, my name is Sam Tonks. Joining me is Zobi. Zobi, like I said, things have been crazy coming out of day 1.
Oh, for sure. Upsets left, right, and center. I mean, Cal Blue being one of them, you know, beating out MBU Spartans. We have Winthrop in the lowers versus Baker, so maybe an NECC kind of clash of Division 1 and the CVAL bracket. So it's just shaping up to be a very interesting year, both in CVAL and CLO of upsets, which is kind of crazy.
It really has been crazy. Also, what's crazy is the prize pool. A small reminder of what our teams are. Fourth 5,000. We talked about it at length, right, Zobi, during these broadcasts, and how important it is.
I'm the prize.
Be able to get this prize.
Sorry, the prize is not me, guys. It's a lot of money, which we've talked about the importance for students that are like in college or about to graduate that this could have on their lives, and being able to do it as well out of esports. So again, strengthening the scene, the sustainability of it. But I mean, aside from that, right, we kind of talked about the storylines that are forming. We kind of talked about, you know, teams in the lowers, teams in the uppers. But how did we get here, right? Because the format was reworked this year, and honestly it's been the best rework we ever could have had, because usually it was just this kind of like, if you were seated in the bottom, you were thrown into the top seeds. Like your first round you were one and done because you're like up against your Northwoods, your Tamus, your Maryvilles. And now with this structure, it was seeded into a upper and a lower, each with 16 teams. So it was kind of like the best of the best go against each other, but then they get a second life in the lowers, and that came out of, you know, your top 2 seeds from every single region were guaranteed an upper round 1 start, and then the rest were seeded by a committee of, you know, experienced individuals in the space, whether it was players, whether it was broadcast talent like me, or whether it was, you know, directors of esports programs that have been around the block for the beginning of esports.
Yeah, it's so cool to be able to take a look and see how things have been shaping up, right? I mean, now we're in the lower round 4 bracket, upper semifinals have been set. And speaking of, right, the competition format, you can go ahead and start taking a look at the brackets themselves and see how things have been shaping up so far. Starting off, of course, with the upper bracket, none other than what's going to be happening in the upper semifinals. Hugh Storm taking down Winthrop, obviously the big topic of discussion.
Definitely a dark horse right now in the CVAL bracket, now going up against the reigning CVAL champions from last year, Tam and Maroon, who have also had kind of their own resurgence here, revitalization after a smaller seeding, you know, seed 5, I think, coming out of the South, you know, not the performance they were hopefully expecting in NECC either. Another upset in my mind, maybe, is Fisher Navy over SCC. That's not crazy, right? I mean, they're the CECC champions. Yeah, I feel like, again, they made some roster reworks. You know, they lost some star players, I'll say, to Maryville, right? You look at like Giza, for example, and it's still, I thought they would like get to go up against Maryville, and that would have been a great storyline. So I need to figure out what Fisher has over in the pond.
Yeah, what they're cooking over there. So now that we've seen how the upper bracket is formulating for itself, it's time to step into the lower bracket, see just exactly what's going to be happening there, including our matchup for today. So yes, we have WVU versus UST, Winthrop versus Baker, St. Clair up against Northwood. That is going to be an insane matchup to witness. Of course, Cumberland versus Cal Blue, which is the broadcast that we are going to be watching today on stream.
Yeah, I mean, Winthrop Baker is going to be a banger. That's the second matchup, I believe, of the day. And I will double check that in the meantime, and it is. And that's going to be a banger. I mean, and St. Clair versus Northwood also not getting gas coverage. I don't know if SCC is going to have it on like a tertiary or a quaternary stream, but I hope they do, because that also, like, these look like they could be like the upper, like, quarterfinals, right? So the fact that it's our lowers is crazy. And I do feel like Cal Blue versus versus Cumberland is that kind of question mark matchup, right? Cal Blue coming in as that number 2 out of the West, right? And I mean, that's why we're going and stepping into this matchup. Cumberland Phoenix versus Cal Blue for our first best of 3 of the day. So I mean, I was getting ahead of myself, right, Sam? I was already stepping into the storylines and such, but I'll let you get a dive. What are you expecting out of these two teams first and foremost?
Right, well, you already mentioned Cal Blue coming out number 2 in the West. Also look over at Cumberland Phoenix, number 2 out of the South, right? So it's a battle of the twos. Cumberland Phoenix losing out to West Virginia University 3-2 in their grand finals. Unfortunately for Cal Blue Esports, right? Not quite the same, getting 3-0'd by the winner over at CVAL West. And so for both of these teams, right, a lot to prove. Cumberland Phoenix is already, I mean, just taking a look at the bracket so far for how they've been playing. They 2-0'd Baker, right? So that's a big win for them. And then had to go up against none other than Maryville University, who's been on a tear throughout collegiate. And you've managed to take one map off of them. Meanwhile, you look over at how Cal Blue has been working through, right? Losing out in the very first upper round against Winthrop University, and then having to make their own run through the lower bracket so far. And could it be facing, right, that end of the line, end of the road? Because for both of these teams, right, Zoe, we're in the lower round, we're in the lower brackets. This is where things are at their utmost pressure.
And for me, Cumberland Phoenix is this, like, I phrase them as a dark horse. Like, yes, HU Storm is like the upper bracket up horse right now. Like, this is the team that I literally just said for like CECC is gonna make a deep run. Like, they are like just below your Maryville Winthrop. Like, they could take it, like, I'm sure Northwood, to a banger of a series, for example. And I think it's like that kind of like A tier, not quite the S tier of collegiate, versus Cal Blue, right? They are the last standing team, right, from the West, right? Baker 2-0'd SJSU, and SJSU really in the West was better than Cal Blue. And then we kind of had this like massacre of West versus West, where USC Cardinals, the number 1 seed, was taken out by UCI, the 4th seed. So like they have their own story, they're representing their own region, versus Cumberland Phoenix is really just trying to prove the might of their program overall. I mean, they've made deep runs in multiple game titles in other programs right now.
Yeah. So for the West, right, the last remaining bastion of hope for that region. Meanwhile, for Cumberland Phoenix, this is an opportunity to exert dominant superiority. The only thing I feel bad for is that whoever comes out of this matchup is going to have to take on either St. Clair or Northwood University. And that's going to be a scary prospect to look forward to for either one of these teams. Now that we've, I think, set the stage for how Cumberland Phoenix, how Cal Blue has been looking, it's time to set the stage for where we're going to be playing for this afternoon. The map picks, Obi, if we've been paying attention to what these teams like, where they like to be, this really is no surprise, right? Starting off on Split, going into Ascent, and if we need to, ending on Icebox.
Yeah, I think the bans here made a lot of sense in my mind, at least the first round. I kind of knew that Cal Blue was going to call Cumberland's bluff, because both of these teams like to insta-ban Fracture. But I think Lotus is that soft spot right now for Cal Blue, and they were like, we really don't want to do it. It's a good map as well for Cumberland. Let's get it out of the way. Let Cumberland ban out Fracture, and then we get our pick at the lot, right? And that lands on Split, which has been a really good map for them so far. You know, 13-11 over Stony Brook, 13-7 over MBU Spartans in that upset that we just mentioned. And then we go to the side of Cumberland, and that's where I start getting question marks. I did not expect an Ascent pick. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, don't get me wrong, their Ascent isn't terrible, but it's been a while since they played it. Most notably, it was that grand finals against West Virginia in CVAL South, and it was a 13-8 victory, but it's more so questionable because Cal Blue, this is one of their really good maps, minus that early 2-13 against, of course, Winthrop, so I don't even want to count that. But since they made this composition shift from a Vice to a Deadlock, it feels like they really have found their groove, and this map works for them in their pool.
Yeah, and it's going to have to be a big deal for Cal Blue, right? If you can take Split, if you can take Ascent, then you have an early afternoon, you're done, you've saved the West, and Cumberland Phoenix is out. This is Cumberland Phoenix that we're talking about here. This is a team that has proven themselves through the fire and flames, through the forges. They've gone up against some of the best squads that we have so far in CVAL, even just right now in the championship. I mean, you've 2-0'd Baker College. You went toe-to-toe with Maryville University. And by the way, right, they took a map off of them. The first map that they had, Lotus, was a 14-16 overtime.
I watched that.
Yeah. So that's
insanity.
That is an intense game. and it had to end on Pearl 513. So yeah, it was tough regardless for how this squad was going to go. But when you're up against Maryville, when you're able to take on a team like Maryville, that's a big deal when you think back and look back at what they could accomplish here against Cal Blue. That's not to say that Cal Blue, right, hasn't had a tough time for themselves, right? You went up against Winthrop University in the very first round, and then you 2-0 the MBU Spartan squad. So we're looking at, again, this the mashup between these two teams and how they're going to play against each other. And it's being able to, especially if you're Cal Blue, come out explosively on your own map choice, map number 1 of Split, where you've proven yourself time and time again. That is really going to set the stage for what could be happening in the rest of the series.
Yeah, I think my biggest hope is we obviously casted yesterday UST versus UCI, and we saw UCI had a really hard time once they got to this step, once they were up against the big dogs, even after upsetting, right, a major team, like their number 1 seed from their own region, USC Cardinals. And so I'm concerned that it might be a similar trend today, where Cal Blue had an upset, but now, once it gets down into the weeds, when you get to a team that is able to pick you apart effectively, things might get one-sided, might get dicey. Now, I mentioned it. Cal Blue, the map pool is what's working for them right now. It's the reps they've gotten in. They've expanded their pool since they were kind of exploited in their own region in those grand finals by not having touched other maps like Icebox, like Ascent. And they have really, I think, come a long way in a short period of time, which is what's the most impressive about the squad. And, you know, feels reminiscent about another team like Tampa Maroon, who made that deep run in CVAL last season.
I think we've been discussing a lot about how the teams are playing, so I think we should do a small deep dive into what we could be expecting out of Split, right? Just map history-wise, a quick cursory glance at what Cal Blue has been able to accomplish. Multiple victories on this map of Split when they get here. And a couple of times they've lost, right? They've managed to take it all of the way. It went into overtime. And I take a look at this composition, right? You feel like this is the standard Split composition for Cal Blue. It's you have the Arrays, you have your Cypher, Astra, double initiators with the Tejo Breach. And then you look over at Cumberland Phoenix, their Split composition is the one that may be raising some of those eyebrows. It could be like, okay, this is interesting. We're talking about that explosiveness, we're talking about that quick pace, because they eschew the Sentinel pick. They're looking towards the double controller, double initiator raise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking, like I said, towards this map 1, towards this Split, and I'm definitely excited for, like you mentioned, those compositions that we are kind of expecting to see here. I think for me, so I did get to cast, even though it was a little bit one-sided, the CECC West Grand Finals, which was between SJSU and between Cal Blue, but that was all the way back in November, right? And yeah, it was 6+ months ago. But I do remember, like, and I was like, even while doing my notes, I'm like, where have I heard Sudge Bubby before? And Sudge Bubby is that player to me that you're gonna have to keep an eye on. I think they are why we saw that upset against MBU Spartans. I think they had like 25 and 15 on an Astra, and that's the agent that they're gonna be starting out here, presumably on Split as versus it's, you know, Fasao on that Omen for the other side.
Yeah, right. Last series that they played, which was that MBU Spartans game, across the entire series, 44 and 34 for Sudge Bubby on Astra and an Omen, Split and Ascent respectively. So admirable numbers, especially when you think about what a controller's job is, the massive priority in keeping them alive for site denial, for site take, for so many different ways on how the map is played. And especially when you think about Astra for Split filling in sort of that pseudo sentinel role on top of what is already the cipher that Cal Blue is going to be working with. And then you start getting more of an idea of what the capabilities of this squad are and just how capable Sudge Bubby is going to be able to show themselves off against what could be this Cumberland Phoenix upset.
And I was like trying to look again. I mean, my only concern is we talked about, okay, the upset in the upper brackets, right? HU Storm versus Winthrop. Winthrop was just coming out of doing so many things, like NACE, like CVAL, like Challengers. This squad, Cumberland, also is getting back from NACE, and not a pretty one. They went all the way to Orlando to lose one best of 3 against Winthrop, right? So my concern is that they're going to be a little bit fatigued, and they also, excuse me, but a sneeze. are also maybe going to be feeling that loss a little bit. And again, they also just lost to Maryville. So you're losing to all these top tier players in one was a really close match, right? An overtime, a map 3, a double digits affair. And then you get stomped by like Winthrop, who just lost also to Maryville in the NACE Grand Finals. So like you're in this gray area where you're like, okay, wait, we should be better than Winthrop because Maryville beat Winthrop and we had it close against Maryville. So I'm just hoping they still have that sense of confidence in their play style, especially against a team like Cal Blue, who again, from the West, doesn't play in as much, maybe unexpected what they could bring to the table, but I definitely like that upsets question marks.
Question marks all around. Some of them are going to be answered now inside of the agent select, though. Cumberland Phoenix, it's just like we thought, right? No Sentinel here. It's the double controller, double initiator, Raze. Cal Blue, meanwhile, giving us a small amount of time before Such Bubby will most likely lock in the Astra. But again, it's standard compositions to standard setups for both of these teams. Yeah, and exactly. It's split at its finest for Cumberland and Cal Blue. This is what works for both of these teams. It's what's gotten them the most victories and the most success. And I think speaking on Cumberland, right, for them starting off on the defense, you're not going to have that Sentinel. So you're really going to have to rely on, first of all, the Tejo, the guided salvos being able to delay out the push and stall it out for as long as you can. Same thing for the Viper. It's going to be filling in that pseudo Sentinel role where you're trying to protect the site with wherever you're setting up your wall, wherever you're going to be using your snake bites. And really, I would imagine for this squad especially, we're going to be seeing a lot of the split retake game for Cumberland.
No, for sure. And I'm trying to, again, look towards these. And I was trying to, like, dive into, like, the stats and, like, try to establish an identity for Cal Blue. And for me, again, Such Bubby had a really strong performance on the MBU game. But it feels like this squad is really favored because they're well-rounded. And it might be more standout from the other side. But speaking of standout, Such Bubby, first blood of the map, traded out from this early B-main aggression, which is, again, uncharacteristic of a pistol. Actually having that early fight inside Garage. And I mean, Cal Blue gonna think better of it, just completely get out of dodge.
All right. Gonna back away, each side losing a raise apiece. JP needs to get back before the fault line could be their execution sentence. The smoke inside of Mailbox is going to push them back and push them away. Right? They don't want to go any further. Press their luck than what they have to. Meanwhile, it's dipping inside of Sewers, looking up towards the heavens above. Dadston seeing the stealth drone come in their direction. If they can avoid this, be massive in taking away the info gain that Cumberland Phoenix could have been using. And yeah, look at that. Cal Blue slowly but surely. Eventually the stars are going to come up. One is going to be in heaven. Screen still open. And that's where it's vital that the Tejo guided salvo could push them back and protect them. Yeah, there it is. First one comes up. Spike eventually going to be planted by Goat.
30 seconds left.
It's just going to be playing for the 4v4 retake. And like I said, that's what Cumberland's looking for here.
But they don't have a scale-up duelist anymore, right? Shooter's supposed to be satchelating in, you know, diving in off of, you know, your breach stun, off of your salvos, and now you don't have that factor. So that's why this trio off the paranoia, off the flashpoint is going to come out of main. The stun delays, but it's not before Arctic is found, and the support from JP out of Raptors as well ensures no additional tradability, but it's Dadston from backside.
Enemy remains.
Yeah, that two from Dadston, make it a third one. Only the last player left to go. And Such Bubby reminding us what their dominance is like when they're popping off. But it's Dadston 3K, the talk of the town.
Wow. Insane anchorage on the site. I mean, that's what you wanted of your Sentinel. If they're not holding down the flank, they're holding down the site on attack or on the defense. And again, when you've already kind of lost some opening engagements over towards the B side, it's smart to play numbers on the site. And in doing so as well, we talked about that trio that came barreling down ramps. They would have been in the way of a train, to say the least. So Cal Blue get the pistol on the board from the get-go, get the better weaponry, and we'll see what the response is from Cumberland right now, just toying around with maybe some mid-aggression ideas. You can see the pings of the fault line. It looks like it's going to be off of contact, though, and the drone is actually what makes contact, so Oni can be set up with this outlaw.
Yeah, that was quick. Wadi really wanted to get rid of the stealth drone. Instead, they're the one who's gotten rid of, and then you do a simple guided salvo, clear out Mailbox, push him back a little further, but Cal Blue is still taking their dear sweet time, and that gives Cumberland Phoenix the opportunity to come back in this area. You just go right into the firing squad until, my word. Have Sal, a double kill with a classic, and you just back off. Don't push your luck any further than you need to. Cal Blue's just going to deposit one player left behind to make sure the weapons are protected, but eventually, right, you're going to have to move back towards the site, regroup with the squad, put up the smokes. Spike gets
Yeah,
planted.
I mean, Cal Blue doing exactly what you wanted them to do. Able to break apart that aggressive mid front. But then you mentioned it, Fasal, the heroics finding two there. They're making a decision as well to favor time over the weapon upgrades. So Sedgwick's just gonna play offsite with that Astra Util and Dadson. I mean, that's gonna be basically a North left up line in the next round after 3 to the 2-piece. Cal Blue, bumpy start because of Fasal, but they keep it clean. They wrap it up with a bow over towards the A site. But now, okay, we're getting to the rifles, and I'm starting to see some tendencies, right? When they're mid, when their B fails, they almost are drawn to A magnetically. So what I've been looking forward to on the Cumberland side is, okay, picking up on that and keeping more players there, like your double initiator combo. This util, there's not a duelist there, which is questionable in my mind. Like, they're not going to be, like, deep diving forward. But I think that's also because it is, right, a Cal Blue anti, like, it's a bonus, right? So you don't want to give them those opportunities, but it's like a little death ball, a little, again, get Fasal off this line they could have been holding and identify where they're playing from. Do they see them, really?
Oh, they do! They get on top of the aftershock. They may have thought, too, that the Omen would have TP'd somewhere deeper into sight. Rather, it's just on top of the box even further. Afsal can still hold on to this position, but tepid waters here for Cal Blue. Dadston beating out Wadi. That's unbelievable, and even doing a massive amount of damage to Shooter. Now, whatever Afsal was hoping for here has been thrown away to the ether until they come back in for the fight of a lifetime. A double kill that almost translated into the third, Oni hanging on by a thread of HP. They get the regen shields back online, but that's just 30 that they get to work with. They're still going to try and regress back into this. That's where Dadston, though, and the heroics that they're capable of is being put into the prime spotlight. Be able to double dip for another opportunity. They know that Shooter is low on the HP. It's only 10. And they can take that fight here, but FSAL is swarmed all over, right? They got to be careful of what could be coming in through heaven and the players that are fighting it out, but now on track for the ace. FSAL barely lets it slip through their fingers, but now it's down to the 1v2. Dadston, 30 seconds, ticking away. Got to push eventually, figure out where they want to go. Heaven control going to be dipped out between there, CT. It's now just 15 seconds and they don't know. They don't know where Shooter, they don't know where JP could be hiding. They finally do pick up the spike, but again, we're talking about how low they're running on the time. Now another opportunity for the ace. Tripwire is gonna be there. They have no choice but to plant the spike. And this is gonna sacrifice everything for their life. JP, in the nick of time, makes it happen. But man, it cost them everything for it.
Yes, what a beautiful bonus. And again, it's this scale of success between Datsun and Fasal right now. And Ace denied, but you mentioned heroics to clutch out a round. I mean, Datsun, right? They've got impact no matter where they went. And this is that shining moment. The breach sets you up, splinters the players on Cal Blue side. Fasal capitalizes off of that. And I think they felt the need to because if you notice and you mentioned, Shooter was taken down super low HP early on. But then this crowning moment from JP. If you notice, they slip in past the trap wire as it's getting deployed. They didn't destroy it. They destroyed it. I'm sure we would have seen Dadston get off the spike, gamble the time, gamble the clock, thinking they were sticking it. But all in all, around one, but the economy damage, which is why now desperation would be to push forward to get these orbs. But, oh no, do you expect 3 there?
At least Such Buffy did. Wadi does have the trade, but man, you're going right back into the crosshairs of Dadston. All we can say to that is good luck. Cal Blue wins out in that engagement. 2 players down for Cumberland Phoenix. Now it's time, again, we see what happens here with this squad. They pull some of the numbers away, they win these engagements, and then, like I said, the magnetic attraction to go towards the other side and begin that migration is now happening. There could be an adaptation here, though, where they might want to just dip back in, vent to A, but that hasn't been the play for Cal Blue so far, and it's looking doggedly like they still want to eventually weasel their way towards B, put a camera inside of there, realize that a player getting rid of the camera, just to be safe, play it smart, run down the timer for as long as you can, right? It's 40 seconds, but this raise is already here. Shooter gonna be pushed back by the guided salvo, and then it's all off to the races here. If you're F-Sal by themselves, Arctic rips their head off. So much opportunities left here, especially with GOAT winning their engagement against Shooter. Now it's JP, but instead of the 1v1 that they had last time, it's a 1v4.
And again, economy fragile, maybe even calling for the save here. Running away to the A site. You'll have your toxic screen for brave protection. I mean, Cal Blue, again, is starting to defy expectations, looking strong, looking coordinated, looking decisive in their calls, versus, again, it's been kind of brute heroics out of Cumberland, right? Fasal, again, on the eco, on the rifle round, and at like, you look at that round, right? Fasal was left alone on B. They fall. Shooter also takes a solo fight. Then JP is left alone. In that core situation, like, you want to, like, try to tag team. You want to coordinate. You want to buddy system up. Like, we saw a lot happening from both teams yesterday in our CVAL coverage. So, all in all, search party may be going out here, expecting JP to have been a little bit deeper towards spawn, but they are safely tucked away on A to hold on to that rifle for the time being. And for me, I gotta see a change here out of Cumberland, or this is going to get dicey. Yes, it's Cal Blue's pick, but I mean, look at the money here. Do you go for a coordinated aggressive play? I kind of mentioned this, right? I was like, okay, it's a strategy. It's a look where they weren't playing like the double initiator setting up Shooter, right? One round because Shooter was out of the fight. One round because, again, you don't want to get aggressive without weapons. But do you start doing it now? The setup here with Players Heaven screams yes, and it's an eco, which lends to it nicely.
Well, hopefully for Cumberland Phoenix, they're able to find something from this. Camera spotted, camera taken down. FSAL, we know what they're capable of. We know how they like to play these opportunities, and they're emboldened by the breach support with them there, but you're just trying to go out as far as you can. That's big from FSAL, though. That's Spike. That's a player down. That's a breach. They're holding on for dear life. They may even be able to go and pick up the weapon left behind with it into the shadows. Not only that, but Shooter gets rid of Sudge Bubby. And now things for Cal Blue are looking a little topsy-turvy.
They didn't get the weapon, I'm pretty sure. I think that it got destroyed in time by Oni there. So that's denied, but the late claimage looks like the Breach is going to try their best. They get the upgrade, and now they're behind. They're crunching on the players. The slow plays, that magnetic draw that I mentioned to the A side, could get disrupted here. There's no Cypher utility. There's nothing up yet. Your Viper could proc the wall to delay once contact's made from Fasal. There's so much working here, and it can fall apart in a second if the weapons aren't collected. I think they got another Vandal.
And JP, yeah, has the Vandal. Right, 3 players from Cumberland Phoenix. Wadi! But Dadston! Unbelievable shots from them! It's still going to be Joe Fowen at the end of the day to land the killing blow. But finally for Cumberland Phoenix, a working strategy.
I mean, they cleaned up what I asked for. They had a lot more coordination. If you notice, they had these 2 pairings, right? They had the Tejo Rays and they had the Omen Breach, and they both were getting aggressive early on, and they just happened to have more success towards the B site, so you saw this immediate lean of the players. And they also got eyes there, they got a weapon down there, and then whoever came up with the idea, right, to start flanking, to have the players who had deep mid control, who had deep spawn control, just group up and get behind that A hit. It worked very succinctly. And now, again, keep things close, get back on track. You have weapons to work with, you have an Armageddon to work with. Again, B main, I was gonna say, how does Cal Blue get control back over this? Because CU's been winning it time and time again, and they're fighting it full investment, paranoia, rolling thunder, aftershock, you name it, they want B main control.
They want B main control. They got it. Cal Blue. Don't look like they want to tempt fate any further than what they've already had. Sudge Bubby out through mid, but gotta be careful of the close corner. JP! Is Sudge Bubby gonna clear that? They're playing it carefully. The poison orb comes up and it actually protects Sudge Bubby to get them away in the nick of time. They're gonna be left behind with the prize of a paint shell grenade, but other than that, the most important thing is they're still alive. They're still able to fight back until Shooter lives up to their name, shooting back in a massive way. Dadston stuck by the guided salvo, eventually gonna flush them over towards FSAL. It's a battle of the wills, battle of the ages, but Dadston's being swarmed all over. And at that point, it was just spray, pray, and hope you can get away with something there. But for Cumberland Phoenix, it's a tied map of split now.
Yeah, looking very decisive, very coordinated again. Trap play, B main with the rolling thunder. Good grasp, reclaim over mid. Like, it's just, again, finally coordination. And I'm loving how they're playing Fasal like this secondary duelist, right? Again, we kind of... This is a map that lent itself in the old meta, right? To a double duelist. And, I mean, now coming to this next round, like we mentioned, Cumberland looked very clean, very succinct. We are going to get the Cal Blue timeout. Maybe to address, okay, guys, we were getting away with some things in the first few rounds, but that was Cumberland mistakes and maybe our Dadston heroics as well. So how can we get back on the board in terms of our calling, in terms of our strategy, especially entering what is probably your last true buy round and your ult round? Look at this. Every ult, one orb off as well from the Rolling Thunder and the Showstopper. This round is going to be really explosive.
It's going to be really explosive, and I wouldn't be surprised, too, for Cal Blue if the idea is to try and farm those ult orbs, maybe give it over to Oni, let them have the Showstopper, blast their way onto the A site, and maybe take a stronger stance against Cumberland Phoenix. We know that the Breach, we know that the Omen, FSAL, and JFO for Cumberland Phoenix plays that B main approach. But it looks like they're shaking things up this time, right? We're going to send FSAL over to A.
Right there.
Cal Blue, off the back of that timeout, split the squad up. Instead of fighting for B main, it looks like they want to go in through mid and split off a couple players.
This feels like an Armageddon trap.
Yeah.
And they also want to deny the B main orb because I mentioned Rolling Thunder, Showstopper both one off here. So this is looking really smart, really clean. Actually, Till not really getting much respect from Cumberland either.
Oof.
But what is going to get respected is the mid control. Sudge Bubby through the poison cloud somehow gets the trade with the sheriff in hand. No weapon collection just yet because JFON's posted up there as well towards Mail. And there's the Armageddon. It covers the entirety of it. All that work and the crunch is good.
Dadston still fights back, but Shooter's double kill. Cumberland Phoenix standing strong. Oh my God, Dadston. What kind of game are we playing right now? And now you've seen where FSAL is. Whip out the knives and just start running away. Arctic's still going to be left behind, but no one is going to run out the clock. If you are Cal Blue, unbelievable from this squad, though. A massive, massive win here for Cal Blue, and what looked like things that had fallen out of the wayside.
I mean, Dadston, what can we say? Like, again, the traps were gorgeous, perfect from Cumberland. There were some rogues, again, starting out from Sudge Bubby here, and the shooter pinch also was gorgeous. And then it's this moment right here, right? You have the advantage. You know you have the numbers. Why do you keep fighting if you're Cumberland? It almost fell apart for Cal Blue as well, if you notice, right? There was a decision to break off to go get the plant, and then they realized, wait, if they lose the fight, it's a 1v1. And you saw Dadston come rushing back to get the trade regardless. Doesn't matter. Arctic wins the fight. Cal Blue get the round after their timeout, but probably not in the fashion they were hoping for. Still have the ults. Only the neural theft invested again, disrupted FSAL's flank plan. Now it's a big mid fight again. Cumberland not letting off the gas no matter the success rate.
And this is what makes Cumberland Phoenix such a scary squad, is that they still want to take these fights, and it's sort of been this gamble for them now. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll just do it again. And those are the kind of plays that you love to see from this squad. They expend the ultimate, they use the showstopper, they get what they needed, they back out. This time though, instead of the crazy aggressiveness that we had in the previous round, they're tempering those expectations. They're pulling it back, and they're letting Cloud Blue come towards them. But my God, when you have to fight against Dadston, it's so tough. This player just does not miss.
Like, look at this. Dadston is the first in, and there's 3 behind. Like, obviously they were cut off by utility, but that feels like an analogy for how this squad's been playing. Now, though, Cosmic Divide up. FSAL left alone here again. We've seen them in this position. They've delivered before. They've been overwhelmed other times. Can they do it this time? Paranoia out. Doesn't connect onto Arctic. The timing through the dark covers does.
Wow, they slipped through right over to the other side. It's still JP. A double kill. Goat and Dadston. Those are big wins, big victories.
One enemy remaining.
Oh, my word. Okay, things are going topsy-turvy. But it's still Cumberland Phoenix, the one to survive and weather the storm. The one to be alive. This split map is so contentious.
Yeah, showing maybe that Cal Blue's upset wasn't a fluke. They are trying to make that deep run for the West. But I've got to talk about it, Sam. You saw the Cosmic Divide. I don't think it's a standard one for this map for an Astra, right? And I think that's where things started to go right. Obviously, FSAL had some insane timing through the dark covers, but if you notice, right, Sudge Bubby was trying to play this, like, peekaboo angle with their Cosmic Divide, and JP was having none of it. Woody fell to it, but it didn't matter. They played for that control. They couldn't tell where the Cumberland members were, and that's what really worked for them. Now, okay, economy reset, minus that hero for Dadston. Again, when you're up this many kills, it's possible. But I like this look, right? Again, they have this really indomitable duo between JFO and FSAL. They usually have really good B control. Now they've facilitated, I was going to say, mid with the pit, and they shut down Dadston over towards A. Yes, be the trade, but this is looking good as long as they win the fight to be main. And you gotta take them together, JFO, and I know you're Flash, but why are you leaving FSAL on an island?
Yeah, I mean, FSAL was pushed out so far. I thought they were going to be protected. Maybe the breach would have helped them, but no. Left to struggle, left to fight their own fights. And now, right, we see what happens here for Cal Blue. Rather than going through sewers, a lot of noise being picked up by Wadi. I'm assuming here, reason why they turned around immediately. They're looking up in this direction, but they have to be on point for this fight. Go, you clear sewers, you clear sewers. They tried to, but it's just too fast for them. Special delivery is going to push it back. Concussed now. And running out of time too on top of it. 30 seconds. left to go for Cal Blue. Sudge Bubby picks up the Vandal left behind by Dassin. But once they peek through this smoke, they kind of take the fight. It's JP, who holds their ground, stands tall against Sudge Bubby supremacy. Now Arctic, where do you go from here, buddy? What is the plan? What is the call? How do you take these fights when one wall comes up, you're running at 10 seconds, you just try to jump through it? It's right into the Lion's Den, and a Cumberland Phoenix in the lead.
That was played perfectly, right? Woody on the flank just has this threat. It feels like Cal Blue's hand is forced into the ace site. And then again, that tag team nature, right? You find a frag through the toxic screen. You stun, so there's no trade ability, and that leaves Arctic in that 1v3 situation with no time to really take their time here. And also, you know, this is Nico, so getting in a dodge, right? Not allowing yourself to get traded out there by disengaging through sewers, positioning heaven. Play very smart from Cumberland. Why they are a top team right now, at least through performance standards, from deep progression in NACE and in CVAL. So, Cal Blue, weapons back in hand. Still sitting on some holds to work with Rolling Thunder, Armageddon. They look scared. They don't think they're respecting Cumberland too much, and I mean, this is why. They're running them down time and time again, and finally Oni is able to strike back.
Yeah, finally, big moment here for the duelists. That double kill. Giving everything that Cal Blue needed to punch through onto the safe side. But oh my gosh, JP! Keep your weapon out, buddy. You know there's someone with the sight. You gotta be so careful. There's still FSAL going toe-to-toe with Oni, winning that. Maybe try to play through with them, but the stealth drone's gonna figure out where FSAL is. Know that they're lurking over towards screens. It's a 1v3. And so not impossible odds for FSAL, but I definitely don't want to be in his position.
Look at their playing for exits, right? Look at the economy. It's not great for Cal Blue. With 3 weapons, and it should be fine. But you also, if you could maybe get the ball rolling here, pull an ultimate out like a Rolling Thunder here. The Astros side's difficult with the utility with the suck here, but that's what I was looking for. Damage done. The Aftershock suck combo pretty clean. Now you're vulnerable. 1 bullet should get the job done. And Sudge Bubby, shaky, but they align and deal the fatal blow. 3 kills for Sudge Bubby. They keep us toe-to-toe 5-5.
I mean, that was a phenomenal effort from FSAL. Put the smoke on the spike, ping it to get the grab well, pulling you in. You beat down Arctic, and then you just keep going from there, trying your odds, trying your chances, and then go for the defuse of the spike. And they still have enough money to be able to eke by with another round buy. So it wasn't the worst possible scenario here for Cumberland Phoenix. Like I said, this split map has just been back and forth. You think one team has the lead, and the other team strikes back in a big, big way. Waddy, are they gonna be able to get out? No, Oni hunts him down with a charge. They do. This time, Jay Fowen's not gonna leave their squad mate behind to suffer the fatal blow. Oh, and
look at this! You're running into shooter, or you're running into the site, or you're finding death in the Armageddon. Sudge Bubby, again, that player that steps forward, shuts down the carnage, but the damage is done. The 1v4 here for your 6th round. And I mean, at this point, the drone's confirmed where you are. The players from Cumberland starting to rotate over. It's not done yet, and this is where finally we're getting to see that kind of patience, that discipline out of Cumberland, not taking any chances.
No, you can't. Right? Any opportunities that could be grabbed by Sudge Bubby could snowball them into what could be that round 1. And isolate your 1v1s, take your chances, take your odds. That's going to had to be a heroic show of force from Sudge Bubby. They do get by the snake bite, so first one done. They're still running out of time, right? It's 30 seconds as Sal, a casual flick over to Sudge Bubby's head. That puts the nail in the coffin for this round. Again, it's tied, right? It's sorry, Cumberland Phoenix in the lead,
yeah.
6-5.
Yeah, they finally take their 6, that safety net. We'll see if they can close it out with an advantage or not. And reminder, this is Cal Blue's pick, but for Cumberland, that round I really liked because they've been kind of committing too much, right? The commitments were working. They were catching Cal Blue off guard for the meantime, particularly over towards B main. The first time it worked A main, after that, Cal Blue was punishing it, right? And they were ready to punish it that round again, but all they did that time was, again, play for the orb, get out, and then they punished, you know, Cal Blue's clapback. And that works out really, really well here. And now Cumberland, innovating, getting aggressive in a different fashion here. What is this? Arctic, you're in for a rude awakening, buddy. No trade? There it is, thank you.
Thank goodness. All right, JP had it there. You're going to be so careful not to get caught out by the rest of the squad. We know that Even though Cal Blue may not have the firepower on their side, they're still deadly with what they can be working with. Datsun, for goodness sake, has the Sheriff. Sudge Bubby, same thing there. But now they just had to back away. Play for safety. 2 up through mid, JP skirting by the poison orb over into mailbox. A couple of jump peeks here, try to figure out what's going on. Sudge Bubby seen by JP. Now we're trying to figure out what the rest of the squad is going to try and do here. A quick peek into the dark shadows, right? FSAL saw Oni be main, but still Cal Blue just, they can't get a stranglehold on how they want to approach the rest of this map of Split.
And that's the issue. They're never decisive. They've been sitting on Goat's Rolling Thunder for how
30
long?
seconds left.
And they're still going to take an engagement heaven without utilizing it. They're still trying to take the B side without utilizing the full kit and their tools. And there it finally is going to come, and this is where the success comes through.
Wadi may have blown up Oni, but now they're on an island. They're concussed. They got to spike somebody inside of there. Shorty not going to do good enough. Oh my God, FSAL. Oh, it looks like it's down to the 1v1. Dadston versus FSAL. The powerhouse players, a 1v1. Who to determine the fate of this half? It's FSAL. Enough of the head seen by Dadston, and they rip it off. Cumberland Phoenix, after a rocky start and Split, ends this half 7-5.
Wow. I mean, could we have asked for a better conclusion to the half? We laid out these two titans, Fasao and Dadston here, topping the leaderboard, you know, each of them with almost, or like literally with like 2+ KDAs, right? And it comes down to the 1v1 between them. Fasao definitely taking the heroic approach for it, right? Insane double kill when they thought they had B control over the Rolling Thunder. So great timing there. And Cal Blue, again, I need to see confidence out of them because that's where it was lacking. But Sam, one thing you can be confident about is your gaming system or its connection, thanks to Exit Lag, who is a partner for CVAL. They ensure better and faster connection routes to game servers, limiting connection issues with a single button press. So make sure to check them out with code GGWP or GG Well Played as we get to jump into even more powered gameplay here on the second half. Map 1 between Cumberland and Cal Blue. Can Cal Blue take this much needed pistol to tie us up out the gate? But I mean, Cal Blue, they're in their Cumberland, they're in their element here, right? They're on the attack. They were already aggressive on the defense, and I mean, we're not even 10 seconds in, and they're already into events.
It's move fast, make a lot of noise, throw Cal Blue off their game. Not only that, but the Astro Wall, or sorry, Viper Wall is going to go up. The Grab Well to try and stall things out. Sudge Bubby just needs to give this space away. In the meantime, Shooter's still going to push through. Right, that's where you got to think about where the Cypher utility is going to be set up. You've seen where Dadston is. Is just a powerhouse player that just cannot get away when FSAL is on the case. They finally bring themselves back over to the site, and this is the explosiveness that we were expecting from Cumberland Phoenix. It does end in them eventually planting the spike backside of A.
You've lost Shooter, you've lost Dadston. Nice clearance, nice flood utility here with Salvas trying to contest, trying to constrain you. Vasal gets the close angle with the frenzy. The cost of a lot of their HP now. The players divided. Spike not even planted for heaven, not planted for this breach, so you gotta get the shots before they get on the site. And Woody was doing the job. The tag team's good from J-Foen, but you only have a flashpoint, and I mentioned they're gonna hear the drop down. They have a paint shell. Both these players tiptoeing around each other.
It's 10 HP for Oni, though. That's a good paint shell. May flush J-Foen into there, but man, they tried to go for this defuse of the spike, and that set J-Foen up for everything. Capitalize on the 10 HP that was left remaining. Cumberland Phoenix taking the second pistol round of Split.
Yeah, we started out a little indecisive, right? Like, they explode into vents and then they halt, right? They're like, where do we go from here? Yeah. And then they make the decision to backpedal, reclaim A, and then it's like we just restarted the round with less time, and they still walk away with success, some clean team fights, you know, maybe some heroics as well from Woody there. Solo on the site after, again, plant maybe was off a little bit. It feels very ragtag, but just like still aggressive, you know, from Cumberland, and it feels like they're just bodying through Cal Blue at the moment on Split here. Gamble stack from Cal Blue over towards A Heaven. You know, we talked about, okay, that dynamic vents take. Maybe this would be in a good position to counter it here, but Cumberland, right now, there's a chance they could just walk out onto B if Fasao catches wind of, or if JP catches wind of what's going on here.
And that's the power of the Viper, right? You get your one, you pull up the wall, and you get out. Or maybe even feel cheeky enough to take a couple more fights if you're really feeling it here. And they absolutely are. It's going to end in a sacrifice of their life. Meanwhile, though, Sudge Bubby, these classics just shooting a little bit differently than I'm used to. I think they managed to grab the weapon or at least pulled it back a little further into heaven, so Cal Blue can't get anything. But like you said, Spike is eventually going to be planted, and Sudge Bubby does get the Guardian, but man, J4 holding back for as long as they did mid, Goat's gone.
Oof. But look at 21 HP, drop another weapon down, it could be dangerous. And this is where, again, Cumberland starts to fall apart. They feel like they're very disconnected here. And we'll see if I'm proven wrong. Again, maybe some utility combos once contact's made. But with the Astra closing in here, I mean, to me, like, to take a screenshot of this, I'm seeing a Cowboy victory for the time being. And this is why some things don't go the way you think. Beautiful crunches. Again, the pivot from VALORANT. Shouldn't doubt this player, shouldn't doubt Cumberland. They get a 9th. And I mean, Sam, again, I question Cumberland. The approach to me was a little slow, right? You have JP. They recognize, okay, you got your Cypher fighting you got someone getting the orb, you got a breach stun, you got the raise contact. Like, you know there's a stack here. And you're not giving a weapon over, so I don't discredit them for taking the fight there. But again, Cumberland should have been on B as soon as that fight was starting to unfold kind of vibe.
Yeah. I think they're just realizing having that confidence right now. We're really starting to feel that from the Cumberland squad, especially I mean with how FSAL's playing. They were the ones still alive, and it really just goes to show what they can do. Now the smokes are going to come up. FSAL's though still managed to weaseling their way onto the site itself, hiding out inside of their dark cover. We have another boom bot in through mid, not seeing anyone inside of mid. Look at the stack inside of heaven. This is gonna be in for the fight of a lifetime. Eventually gonna TP over to the other side. That stealth drone comes down below. They get past it. They get past it, Toby. They're gonna be on the wines, and they look behind them. Thankfully, Arctic is gonna avenge their fallen comrade. Cumberland Phoenix, right? They still have players left alive. They still have opportunities to work with here, and these are still powerhouse weapons they have in their hands.
Yeah, but Cal Blue numbers, buddy system, stuck to the heel. They got those upgrades, right? And I mean, you'll get a plant on the A site, but the question is, where do you go from there? Do you play down the time with your paint shell, with your snake bite? Do you try to get aggressive into CT? Low key, that's probably how I would play this. Have JP plant, have shooter push up into CT a little bit, see if they can get a cheeky kill here. And that's, again, with 30 seconds left, how I think this should play out, but it's what Cumberland calls. And again, we talk about that pacing. This is a little bit different of a situation. You have to clear the corners. You have no information about where these players are, but it's giving the time for Cal Blue to realize this isn't going to be a B ending. So now they're going to get the jump. They're going to get the opportunity to make their way over towards this side, and it's actually JP to fight for it. So it is a player, like I asked for, but now the players, they just ignore the fight. They're like in decline, and ooh, Shooter's in a good spot.
Yeah, Shooter's in a good spot. JP's in a good spot. That's the kind of aim that you need.
Ooh.
But too many players, and that's where the numbers advantage comes in clutch for Cal Blue. It's taken them a long time to get here, right? Cumberland Phoenix has been on a tear. Finally denied that, denying the bonus round against their opponents.
Yeah, the 180 from Goat's a little bit clean there, right? Pivot from Shooter over to JP, but I really wish that crunched a little bit better. I think it's because both of them tracked the satcheling Oni out of heaven, so then like they both were trying to snap back, while obviously each of the remaining players for Cavalier with that number advantage you mentioned can just take their one and dones. So good attempt at salvaging the 2v3, but ultimately it goes Cav Blue's way. They deny double digits here for Cumberland. And now we're back to, again, a fairly similar buy. We're getting to the ult rounds for the half here in the next round or two. Looks like Cumberland. First time maybe with an outright challenge over towards A. And coincidentally enough, this is the first time it looks like Cal Blue was seasoned for a B trap as well. So, shift pass in the night. Fasal is in, trying to take this one against Dadston, and it's the head-to-head of the century, where again, Fasal is able to pull ahead, capture the site here for Cumberland. The plant for Heaven's good, and now they start to re-clear the ramps, the space. This is a well-developed host plant now Cal Blue has to crack into.
It really was. You left Dadston, and obviously you know, right, Dadston's been playing out of their minds, but it was alone by themselves. I still got onto the site for free with their ultimate. But hey, this is good opportunities here from Sudge Bubby. F-Sal, we know that was low on that health. This is diabolical from the rest of the squad. Oni's gonna fight back with a showstopper, but unfortunately the range of the judge working against them. Cumberland Phoenix strides into the double digits.
Yeah, I mean, a good plan there from Cal Blue, especially the opening kill from Sudge Bubby, the showstopper. I just don't think they expected to lose two players, like, point-blank style in screens, right? Like, that was good coordination there between J4 and between Shooter. And I mean, this was the setup, and then this is the moment that we're like, wow, look at that, literally in sync. And even though you're dying to the showstopper or the aftershock flushing out Cubby, you take another down with you. That's how Cumberland gets to 10 here. Now they have good ults, they have good weapons. This is where you can maybe snowball it into 12, get this map closed out quickly, and jump over to your map pick of Ascent. But Cal Blue, they're still gonna have a time up their sleeve. They have had killer ecos that have come really close so far. We just needed to dig their heels in and finally win one.
Get that garage space. Take control of this. Cal Blue. So many players on this B site. Right? They have to. Slider by, work against them. It's unfortunate for Goat. They take their one shot now. They gotta back away. Cumberland Phoenix is gonna take a lot of the utility off this squad. Meanwhile, Goat is knocking on death's door. 4 HP. It's not what you want on this lighter buy on this thrifty round. Cumberland Phoenix gives up their ideations of B, and already the rotation happening from Cal Blue. Look at this. The entire squad. They think they're going A, and it's a good read.
Oh yeah, they're going vents. They're gonna probably find Dad's first who has a shorty in hand. The trade delivers. At this point, don't you think you should go back to B? I mean, Fasal's still there. Maybe you could drop this. This is bad raid. Bad raid.
Spike down A.
All right,
The better
Spike's up there
weapons.
too. Spike's in heaven. FSL still
You're
in
surrounded.
mid, and JP surrounded. They're just gonna have to take their
It's a
one. They're winning them.
deathmatch.
They gotta
Yeah,
get back
this is
into this
deathmatch
though.
style.
It
They
is.
got 18 seconds.
They gotta fight. They gotta go to A. It's A or nothing. And there's still 2 players here. Cal Blue. They just need to wait this out. They need to be patient. But the problem is, Goat has 4 HP. And Oni, they're gonna have to go crazy with a stinger. Over to the other
Oh
side,
my
JP
gosh.
protects their squad mate.
Trust
There's
your
not
team.
enough time. I have Sao. There was no other choice but to go toe to toe against Oni, and they win.
Buzzer beater of a round, an important one at that, right? Like I mentioned, that was the Cal Blue in. I mean, this moment, again, getting the player off. Again, the miscommunication, Woody with their util out. They did not expect the entire team for Cal Blue to be here, even down to the plant. And Fasal gets off, again, not thinking the frag was going to go the way. Look at this, there's 5 seconds left. And Fasal, oh, Oni, I mean, yeah, maybe had a satchel left. Maybe he could get around the corner into elbow. Regardless, again, pull it through. They get to 11. Now, I mean, again, never let off the throttle. Speed into mid. Stun and all. Really not giving an opportunity for Cal Blue to breathe.
That's crazy. What a fault line to catch Goat. Try to push him back with the guided salvo, and that's where Shooter capitalizes the kill with the showstopper. Not only that, but FSAL's beating Oni down on B. There's not much left that Cal Blue can do defensive-wise except for try hold this A site. But if Cumberland Phoenix has been picking up on anything, this is where the Cypher likes to play. This is where the utility is set up. And not only that, but JP still has control of this A main approach. I can protect them, and especially if they can get rid of Dadston, that may just be the go-ahead to push A.
It is definitely a detriment of having Dadston be the focal point of frag potential.
Oh, I don't like this from Dadston, though.
That's what I'm saying. They're playing so forward, and the trips main will drop. Oh, we don't like it, but maybe we're just not seeing the vision. The 1-for-1 trade good. Sudge Puppy plays contact off it as well. They try to get ahead of the fault line, but unfortunately it doesn't connect. So, mentioned, yeah, we were doubting it because now the trades end up in Cumberland's favor. It's all down to Arctic. Does have Armageddon online, but look, double it. And that's what you're looking at for Cumberland with the Rolling Thunder in hand. Both players playing off a site, they know they can invest 2 right here, and it's a 12th. And they're like, okay, we'll get our ults back before they get 6, or we'll be able to close out the round in 1. So I would not be surprised if there's zero hesitation to just layer these and invest both of them.
I wouldn't be surprised, too, if they just go toe-to-toe with the fight. If anything happens to JFO in here, they lose that contact play, then it's just put down the guided salvos, try to play for the other side, because this is also set up in a really neat position that Arctic push back. Finally, here's the first of them. Fault line coming up next. They lose that. They get it back out of there. JFO in. Right, we're talking about the timing here. Arctic is just going to give it up. They may not even go for that. Yeah, they had to. They ran out of time.
I mean, I was expecting the Rolling Thunder, but you mentioned at the timer just getting away from Arctic in that clutch situation. Nice draw out, you know, I would say. There, I was questioning maybe the lack of a stun on the salvos, maybe try to keep Arctic in it. But again, the opening, the aggression here has been really, really clean from Cumberland. And I mean, when you're on the attack, right, if you're Cal Blue, you can be like, hey, we're not going to fight. We can just run away, go somewhere else. But when they're roll tiding into you like this, it's so difficult to overcome, which is why you might just need a breather. Cal Blue taking their second timeout on their map pick here. I mean, the weapons, look at this buy. This was actually an issue if you noticed last half. Usually, you know, teams kind of salvage their money. They kind of pitter it. So the last round of the half or possibly of the game, they have a decent buy. You know, maybe like 1 or 2 rifles, maybe like a Stinger, a Spectre. Last half, it was like 2 Sheriffs, a Stinger, and like classics. This half, it feels like the same thing. I mean, this is your last round possibly of the game, and you are sitting on like what you can buy. Maybe a Spectre for Dadston, Sudge Bubby, if you get a shield, can't even get a rifle. Like, you cannot afford a rifle here and a shield. And you have 4 ults. So, like, there's such a mismatch here that, like, I don't know where it fell apart.
I don't either. Not only that, but now you're gonna that timeout pivotal for them to figure out how to use these 4 ultimates. We know Cal Blue is no stranger to winning thrifty rounds or having to take their chances on thrifty rounds. Last time we saw them win it, though, it's been quite some time. It was in the previous half, and that was only because Dadston was going crazy with the Sheriff. Now we've readapted some of these strategies. Dadston's on the B side, and a grand majority of these players from Cal Blue are going to be the bulwark of defense for A. That's not how Cumberland Phoenix is going to be playing this, though, right? They're going slow, they're going tepid. And not only that, right, but they still have the Rolling Thunder, they still have their Armageddon, and they still have a Viper's Pit to expend. And F-Styles one off from the stepping into the shadows, and we know how deadly they can be with that ultimate.
Locating targets.
Well, ults collide. Last round possibly here for Cal Blue. You mentioned they get 1 rifle, the light shield here. The fight.
Crazy.
It's actually Cal Blue taking the initiative, and it just gets punished. Turned on its head here. Goes at 5 HP again. They're trying to sub Arctic in here instead, and I mean, Cumberland, they got what they came for. VALORANT as well. They've been like this perma lurk player, right? We saw it. That's how they clutched out the time round previously. Was making their way back over from B main, but they haven't really broken through the site for util. I don't even know if they know the trap wire is there yet. They haven't really gotten deep enough towards the site just yet.
30
So,
seconds left.
feels like Cal Blue, their timing's always been on point.
Yas,
That
Sudge Bubby.
combo is lethal.
There was nothing that they could do. A counter Armageddon to try and slow them down. Rolling Thunder comes in on the other side too. It's back and forth with the power of these ultimates. But we're talking about a code that 5 HP. There's just nothing that you can do to save it here. Cumberland Phoenix 13-6 on split. Now it all comes down to Ascent for them to close it out.
Ooh, they steal away split, which again was kind of a good pick, a strong pick for Cal Blue, but again, I mean, what a showing from Cumberland. Like, was it messy at times? Were there some mistakes? Was the ball slow rolling at the beginning? Yes, but again, when they started to reel in on the discipline, not take fights they didn't have to, the first half fell into shape, fell into that 7-5, and then again, the attack favors that kind of emboldened play style, especially on a map like Split, where if you exploit these nooks and crannies, it's so difficult to hold on to, right? Like Dadston, they could choose where they fought. They were always in the action, but when you're a Sentinel Syndrome plagued on a Split, and they're going towards the opposite side of the map every single time, it's so hard to get the same style of impact you had on that first half. And I mean, they did a great job. I think the flexibility was there, the ideas were there, but it sometimes comes down to RNG, and just when you kind of had those plans, they were on the opposite side of the map.
Yeah. I did like what we saw from Cal Blue, right? And I'm hoping that Ascent isn't going to fall out of their favor. Definitely would love to get to that map 3 of Icebox, but yeah, this is a Cumberland Phoenix shaky start, eventually ending into a dominating victory for this squad, right? And we set up the notion that for this team, right, they'd been going through a lot already this weekend. Disappointing results out of Nace, and now having to go into CVAL to, in the lower bracket, try and beat out a squad like Cal Blue. It looks like they're back in fighting form. And we had that question at the beginning of the hour, right, on whether or not it was going to be, if they're going to be haggard or if they're going to light the fire inside of them. And so far, we're seeing the fire blazing at next level heats for the Cumberland Phoenix squad. They rising from the ashes, so to speak, Zobi.
No, it's looked really, really good so far, right? They don't look tired. They look energized, in fact, from those losses. And, I mean, Cal Blue, again, I liked how like when they started off right on the defensive half. I'm like, I want them to do something. I want them to be proactive. We kind of saw the glimmers of that in the second half, and we also saw them kind of fighting back in their own way. Right, they kind of like took a step back, weathered the aggression, and I think coming into a map like Ascent, I don't know. I feel like it feels a lot more. It feels different from Split, like especially when we're going to be going into a double Sentinel composition, right, for the side of Cow Blue, I believe. Like, you're starting out. I want to say you're starting on the defense. I think this could go really well for this squad actually. So we'll see how the momentum can keep in their favor. I kind of again doubted the Cumberland Ascent pick, Sam. But, you know, your players need a breather. Again, we said there's been a lot of VALORANT the last 2 weeks in the collegiate space. Your casters need a breather. And when we come back, we'll jump into map number 2 of this elimination map of CVAL Championship between Cumberland and Cow Blue. Yummy. And we are back. What a short break.
Strong start here for Cumberland Phoenix with a massive victory over on the map of Fracture against Cal Blue. But now we set our eyes on Ascent, where yes, if Cumberland Phoenix are able to take the win here, it's all done and dusted. Cal Blue backs against the wall right now, Zobi, for them to bring us into that map number 3.
Yeah, Cal Blue losing out their map pick a split, and it was a pretty nice turnaround after what ended as a close 7-5. I mean, you lose like that many rounds in the start, and you're like, it's gonna be competitive, and then side swap, and you win 1 round in your second half when you got over onto that defense. Now, I said it, I'm like, okay, we're going into Ascent, we're expecting the double Sentinel as we go into Agent Select here. It's gotta be defense sided for them, right? Like, even if you did just have a really rough defensive half over on Split, that's what I'm hoping for. But Cal Blue, our sides are swapped. I was about to say, I'm like, there's no way they're going the traditional comp. That's what Cumberland runs.
yeah. Cumberland likes their traditions. They are set in the old ways of Ascent, where things have been shifting and coalescing on this map, especially when you look at other collegiate squads, tier 2, tier 1. Cumberland, though, going with the times, we're talking about that double Sentinel composition that slots in with a Deadlock. We've been seeing a lot of success for the Deadlock on this map. It kind of oscillates nowadays between the Deadlock and the Vice, sometimes even just the solo Vice for this map, but not for Cumberland. No, Cumberland, it's Cypher and Deadlock. Meanwhile, we're looking at the more standard Ascent composition for them.
Ooh. Now, this is what's... I think this is the cool thing to point out, though, for Cumberland as well. Number 1, Dadston reprising the Cypher role. They were the player actually playing Vice before, and they had Goat on the Cypher. So when they made the swap, right, they also swapped who was on the Cypher when they were introducing the Deadlock. So Goat, you know, they were strong. They were supportive on the breach. Great utility timings, I think, to set up, you know, some of those plays. But I'm excited to see what they do on the Deadlock. Again, maybe a little bit bigger burden or more expectations for them in anchoring a site. This composition also really great, I think, for countering this composition, right, out of Cumberland. The KO, right? You're going to see them probably playing swap. They're going to see utility on opposite sides. There's a lot that works in this regard. And, I mean, you start on the defense. Are you going aggressive mid on pistol? Really? They are.
Taken out.
Little nuts here. 3 up to mid. He's going to go right into the Blood only has a strike back onto JP. It's still wanting to go even further beyond what they've got here, but you got to start scaling back, right? You've already lost 2 players. Don't lose any more. But Such Buffy says, I'm going to throw that in the garbage can. That idea is going down to the wayside. And because of that, may have just sent things back around. It's FSAL, though. On the lurk of a lifetime, no one protecting the flank. They get the double kill. And that gives Cumberland Phoenix the first pistol of Ascent.
Wow, Fazu again, the one that kind of ties it up with a neat bow. I did like, I asked for Cal Blue, right, to be a little more confident in their plays. Not when you're running a double Sentinel on Ascent, I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like look at their comp, right? Usually when there's a play like that, you know, it's chuck a KO flash, you know? There isn't that same quality here with this composition. Like maybe a Deadlock net, maybe the Paranoia, but those are expensive pieces of utility to invest, like, and particularly the Paranoia. And even the net that early on for a trap, not even a sight hold, like then they just rebound, go be main, and you're out of luck. But this round, JP also kind of switching things up, you know, no longer on the Viper here. Ooh. Sentinel looking, lurking, trying to find a loose end.
They timing really well too. Really, I put down a swarm today, make sure that no one's gonna peek out a tree, and even get rid of the sonic sensor. It's all just about drawing the pressure back over here. But that's the thing, right? Cal Blue is already 4 players stacked on A, and you're leaving Dadston with the unenvious position of holding this B site with very little Cypher utility to work with here. They come out, they swing through the smoke, and they get rid of Shooter, who's kind of just chilling out there, getting rid of the spy cam dart on them. Eventually, though, finally Cumberland Phoenix is going to be able to drop the doors, get onto site, get the spike planted, and hold on to a majority of these weapons.
I mean, they're literally like juggling another one deep lane. until the Killjoy can recover it and play with the team here. So no harm, no foul in that department. No hero weapon to collect, but that was nice from Dadson. I was like, you don't have any trap players. How are you gonna get kills here? But the cam, creative placement. JP playing forward here, actually. Utility just came back online, but they don't need to invest any of it because they are the turret. They are the alarm bot here, playing for contact, playing for these eco kills. And even that contact with Fasu from lane is gorgeous. And Fasu denied the S last time. They won it this time. They're hungry for it, and they're still denied it from Dadston.
Dadston, what a flick with the classic to land that headshot onto Fasu. It doesn't matter though, Cumberland Phoenix arrives at their destination all the same. You gotta give it to Cal Blue, right? They take these opportunities, they take these gamble stacks, and you leave it to Dadston to do whatever they can. It was a good opening frag from them, but that's where JP on that long lurk for what they were wanting to get away with really came alive. But this was just the Fasu show all around. It was all eyes on them, and they over exceeded, I think, expectations even for the anti-eco that they were working with.
And here we go. And I mean, it's just Fasu show. TP's in. And I mean, that's why Oni gets away with one cheeky kill, but I mean, that's a trade for the site. Smoke's gonna dissipate. And that's all you'll have for the rest of the round, but Shuck Darts flying, deny the plant, buys a lot of time for the rotations to come through. You have no lurk developed from Cumberland either, very simplified here. And that's where the net, where the Sova util, this is difficult!
But you don't imagine any other player is going to be down there. Oh, Woody, dipping back and forth for Sudge Bobby, ran out of ammo on the Guardian, the Ghost, not quite hitting the same. Cal Blue, a pretty decent denial of the bonus round against Cumberland Phoenix. Gets there first on the board.
Yeah, and I mean, you're running like the simplest comp, the most stock standard from Cumberland. Again, I'm falling back to don't underestimate this team, right? You didn't have any developed lurks. Maybe it's because it's an eco round, like an anti-eco, right? Like a bonus attempt, you just want to like force the numbers it. And it did get control of the site, but again, you're not expecting lineups, you're not expecting a reflood here. And that's where, okay, Cumberland, maybe in the future rounds, what do? They'll push a player, a duelist into heaven. Maybe they'll add some verticality. And especially when you're into these rifle rounds, have a lurk player, but look at this trap. Oh
Yikes.
My goodness, JP, get out of there.
Yeah, no, at that point, you're calling the card. That's good luck there. All of the utility that was just... Fasu? Inside of Boathouse? Stepping into the shadows? What's happening here? They're expecting that the wall is going to keep them safe long enough that they can rotate in through mid or even towards A to take that fight there, but Cumberland Phoenix just is kind of doggedly holding on to this position. The Aldron's going to spot Jay Fowen. The wall bang not going to quite flush them out in time until eventually Goat and Oni make their presence known. Put it up to Datsun as well to get their own frag. And now where Fasu has been holding on for so long, eventually they got to go fight somewhere, right? Eventually they got to do something here. Wadi finally gets away, finally backs off, especially with the complete control of the B site that Fasu should realize they have.
There's still a cam. There's still a sensor. Fasu needed to go huge there again for the success of Cumberland. I mean, Buddy at least makes it on the site, but again, they know where you are. You're stunned by the sensor trying to destroy the camera. Maybe you'll be gifted a plant by Cal Blue, but even that's dicey. As soon as you tap, they're gonna scale. Wallbang's almost actually connecting. They realize, like, I can't plant here. And now that respect that was given is gonna be rescinded. Or, I mean, if you don't plant, we're gonna flood back in and deny it altogether. And tie us up 2-2 here.
It was a phenomenal fight out in mid from Cal Blue. Jay Fowen being in that super awkward corner position, spotted out by the Owl Drone. It was just simple swings from there. You're trying to take your fights against players swinging in from mid. That, yeah, it was Oni and Dadston up towards Tree. That facilitated so much of the Cal Blue victories. And especially when you have FSOW that had just been hiding out on side, hiding out in Boathouse. That's like your star frag player, right? I mean, 6-3 right now. And they're basically MIA for the entire round.
And again, these deep inserts B main. JP really not able to gain much momentum here. And look at this as well. Cal Blue deep A main control. I mentioned the squad put in the time since CVAL South concluded, or CVAL West concluded, to address this map. And that's what it's looking like, right? Sensors and Cherie trying to splinter this split A. And they actually give up the A main control. And now it's starting to crumble around them. Until Suds Bubby behind Dice, they whiff!
That's unbelievable too. They had the drop on FSAL on Fasu.
One enemy remaining.
Arctic, a couple of shock darts here. Nothing left for Shooter, but then to try and take their ones against Arctic. Thankfully for them, aim on their side. Same for Cal Blue, as they're now in the lead.
Yeah. There was a world, I think, where Cumberland could have won that. If you notice, there was a fight over towards mid as well, where I think Oni with an outlaw actually bested JP on their lurk, so... I don't know. Cumberland... I don't see them, like, that's not the vibe I got as a timeout team after split. But if things keep up the way they are in this defense, I mean, they might cope that this is, again, a double Sentinel comp, so they're going to have some issues here. But they haven't really broken through. And now the defense is only upgraded, right? The operator, Woody, in hot water.
Oh, Woody, don't do it, buddy. Not tempting fate there. Good from Fasu.
Ooh.
Wants to smoke down in mid. Woody, quick opportunities to be peeking here. Goat leaving behind the deadlock wall. Protect this A main site. I wouldn't be surprised if Fasu wants to go for something crazy. Yeah, just TP over to the other side. They may even be able to walk in through this. Goat, though, hearing the noise, hearing the possibilities of what could be surrounding them. The wall falls. Shooter has got so much control inside a garden, but they didn't look up into the corner fast enough. That's Sudge Bubby with the one. Now they eventually roll in on the side. The rest of the squad here. Jay Fowen has the trade. Numbers equalizer. Goat's gone. Door's gonna fall. Sudge Bubby spamming through the smoke, spraying down the door, eventually gonna make that happen. Woody's gonna fall themselves, now blinded out by the paranoia. Shock dart from the heavens above. Now it's down to the 2v2. Massive player like Fasu couldn't stand toe-to-toe against Sudge Bubby. And now with a high-low, JP tried to look from down below to the up above.
And the crowd achievement will be just waiting, having enough time in that situation to go all the way to B main to recover the operator. I mean, that round... I don't even know how I feel about the mid round, right? JP gets a frag over towards B main, and you're still kind of setting up for this late A split. Shooter, I think, got an early kill as well, but then, again, just not effectively clearing your corners, and Sudge Bubby, left alive, just goes nuclear on that retake, player after player. Arctic from Heaven's been really clean as well. Yeah, thank you, Cumberland, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it has to be, right? They're the ones on the back foot. You've lost 4 rounds in a row now. After what was an electric start with the pistol and the anti-eco. Actually, a technical pause? No, just timeout.
Oh, yeah, we'll get it probably fixed.
Just a regular old timeout, I'm sure, here for Cumberland Phoenix. But, yeah, right, they've been having such a strong start, but now being stalled out by Cal Blue's defense. And that's where we're really seeing the power of the double Sentinel come alive. There's just so much that Cumberland Phoenix has to chew through, and the tepid nature of how they approach onto these sites, because they don't know where the sonic sensors are. They had to be careful that they don't trip one of them and get called out by it. Is very important for Cumberland Phoenix to figure out how to dissect while keeping the tempo for what they want to do alive.
Because we saw, again, that kind of brashness over on Split, and it usually worked out because, again, you had these deep inserts, you had heroics from Fasu. I mean, Fasu's still 8-5, so nothing shabby. And they still haven't put up heroics on the 2 rounds you were able to achieve. But, again, I mean, Cal Blue, like, it looks so different. Like, for a double Sentinel composition, you're getting proactive, you're setting traps, you're executing upon them. The Flood retakes are really clean as well. I do think, in my mind as well, I think A main is their best bet here. That, or you start A main and then make a really clean pivot in the late round. But with ults, I was gonna say Bladestorm and updraft over the deadlock wall and the Hunter's Fury, how is Go not dead yet? Thank you.
Oh, but Fasu, right into there. That Hunter's Fury, yeah, it's passive, it's big. But let's see where the shot dart goes. No way it gets another kill, it doesn't. And even better than that, Wadi's gotten rid of Oni, down to the 1v1. Arctic's 4K. Just sealed Cumberland's fate. Cal Blue gets a 5th.
Wow, what a step up from Arctic this map, feeling comfortable, confident, and at home on the Sova. Again, that was a coordinated, aggressive play out of Cumberland that in its own right should have worked. They overwhelmed the Deadlock utility, the Hunter's Fury set up the distraction, the crosshair draw perfectly away from Shooter, and then just this counter Hunter's Fury comes in and rips the players to shred. Arctic finds 2, caps up 2 from Heaven, and that was the factor that I mentioned, right? They needed a way to overwhelm Arctic in particular. And the fact that they started out on B and found the my way back to A that fast. To have that impact too speaks volumes to the defensive side that Cal Blue's playing.
Okay, all right. Pinged out by the spy cam dart, seen by the recon bolt. JP, so much utility. They know what could happen here too, right? The grab net, the paranoia, the shock darts, so much that was dumped onto them. But look at this, look at where Oni is! You're not going to expect the jet there with the operator, there's no way you could have! Unfortunately for JP, that's their death knell, rung out to the rest of the squad. Cumberland Phoenix missing out on their KJ Fasu. It's a couple of pot shots in a tree, leap behind a smoke before finally rotating back over to B. Now you don't know where the operator is, you don't know where Oni's posted. And you gotta be so careful not to get blasted by that operator.
Yeah, I mean, I said I liked the A start and the late pivot, but that's if JP found the opening frag. Nice little 0 point here. It gets the Cypher Yuto, but Shooter has to follow through. And usually it's this 1-for-1 trade, it's this bloody affair. And as the blood dries, it's still left with a Cal Blue advantage here. Heavy HP, Surge Puppy on the back side, the Annihilation rolling in, only constraining the space that Cumberland can play through. Oh.
Wait. Really?
Let's find a low HP player.
Yeah, it's a low HP player! But when one player falls, when it's down to the last, Cal Blue, doesn't matter who it's been, has been stepping up to the plate this time. Goat's time to shine.
Nice little cap off. Nice way to roll into your 6th round. And, I mean, again, this was a map that Cumberland just lost to Winthrop on 8-13. Nothing to scoff against a Winthrop, but still. Now Cal Blue is kind of rolling over them at the moment. JP, it's been like a 50% first blood rate, I want to say, right now. Like, sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. And again, it's just Cal Blue. They haven't had to change anything because it's always working. The only thing they changed is where the operator is, right? Sometimes B main, sometimes pizza, this time tree. But it's always this Sova darting B to try and counter JP. It's always this duo of this Deadlock and this Omen outside of A main. And it requires so much utility then from Cumberland. Time it's not an op, it's an outlaw, but you know, same difference.
Same difference. They know that there's no shields. Cumberland Phoenix, one shot by the outlaw, and they're done. They're dusted. That's a crazy place for that tripwire as well. Inside of Boathouse yet again, but Arctic calls Fasu's bluff. Takes their ones against it, but this is gonna hurt massively. Even detained, they're still gonna grab Shooter. Seen by the tripwire, they jumped into it, Toby. Unbelievable, now Oni has to whip out the shorty. Jay Fowen couldn't get out in the nick of time. Now it's down to JP in a 1v2. Not today. Goat's gonna put you down with a 3K of their own. Cal Blue, no matter what happens, this is their half.
I mean, Cumberland, you had the history going for it, you had the hype, you had the map 1 performance, but at the time being, I'm just adding things that are going right for Cal Blue, and that list is getting longer and longer. Rotation timing's on point here. Arctic is just Arctic, right? They're like at the top of the list, star, star, star every other round. Like, how do you get one more off that trapwire contact that you mentioned before the detain sets in? Like, they were about to get detained, I think that's like 2 seconds left, and you still find a kill on to Shooter. Like, I feel like Shooter's also just been getting shut down left, right, and center. 3-8 right now. Like, you're using both timeouts in the first half. Like, that's how you know you're shaken.
Yeah. I even called out that trip too. I was like, that's a crazy trip. I've never seen that one before. And it turns out to be the one that rings the bell of victory, I think, for Cal Blue, right? It sets up Arctic, who was at 36 HP, by the way. Like you said, inside of that lockdown. Had anything gone haywire there, this may have ended in a Cumberland Phoenix victory. But it didn't. It eventually ended in the way that it did. JP overwhelmed by the numbers, and Cal Blue's just been playing this map of Ascent so perfectly. And to have drawn out both timeouts from Cumberland Phoenix, who put up a strong showing on Split after what was that, again, rough start for them. This doesn't feel like they're shaking that off just yet. It's still rough tides for this squad. They have not figured out what to do, and hopefully this timeout gets their heads back on straight.
Oh, but look who's again taking initiative, changing things up. 3 players out mid. They again identify JP is usually alone. Let's counter them. But the speed up off the null command here over towards A is the culmination of that timeout. And hopefully it goes well here for Cumberland, despite JP and what success or failure might pose over towards tiles. And they do. Studge Bubby taken down. They get the shooter aggression that I asked for because Arctic in Heaven is disastrous. But look at this, the neural theft. Hunter's Fury, this looks good. This should be a Cumberland round. Look at the flank! Look at the flank!
Look at the flank. Woody has it locked down. Not today. Is anyone going to survive through this? And Oni is the only one left alive with the operator. Yeah, call being made. Just get out of there, save this power weapon, and try to eke by with a 9-3 half, 8-4 half.
7-5.
7-5? Numbers.
I'm calling it. I'm calling the 7-5. You know why? Because we had a 7-5 over on Split, and I was like, you know what? We can get to the same end and have a different journey, right? And I feel like it's like, even though it'll be a Cal Blue 7-5, I feel like Cumberland, they can use this as that turnaround opportunity. That round looks super clean. You might not have those ults every time since they utilized both the null command and the Hunter's Fury, but now you kind of know the win con elements, okay? Partially that also, I think the opening there is like they fought mid, so they gave you that main space, versus before they were using a lot more utility to clear it out. What's going on? Is this a Cal Blue timeout? No way.
All right, okay.
It is!
They lose their first round in 7. So I'm sure the call is like, okay, let's get this. Let's get our own heads on straight. What happened there? Right? But you look at what happened for Cumberland Phoenix. They committed so many ultimates to win that round, right? We had the Hunter's Fury. We had the Null Command. We had so much from Cumberland Phoenix. And those were the two massive initiator ultimates that eventually got them there. That, yeah, it was just one reason I'm sure why Cal Blue wants to take this time out now, especially when you look at how slim their own pickings are going to be going for this. Their own economy starting to struggle. Arctic isn't even going to be able to buy up full this go around. There's no one who's going to be able to buy for them. The rest of the squad's operating on Vandals like purchases, and I'm sure they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that this round needs to be won and get to that 9-3.
Well, 2 rounds to go. I call a 7-5, you call a 9-3. Maybe we'll split the difference and get that 8-4. I mean, money is fine. You mentioned 7 rounds in a row. We'll do that for you. Ults, again, they're kind of sparse. You should get Goat's Annihilation back before the half is up. You have Arctic's Hunter's Fury, which last time got 2 kills. So definitely not one to scoff at here. But this is a different look. B, quick scale up. No operator inside either. They don't leave JP alone because, again, JP was starting to get diffed there. 50% leaning farther away. And this is what we like, is that aggression, but they have to find a way to shut down Dadston. And the dart could just do that. Finished off by the frag grenade. Hunter's Fury as well doesn't quite connect, so maybe this is that glimmer. The 4v4, the spike planted. They even have JP deposited logs with an alarm bot forward. Looks like a clean setup here.
Planted.
Yeah. And walks away. That's pretty good. Oni somehow down to 10 HP. Don't know where that engagement lost them all of that. But regardless, that's that operator in hand that's going to make the retake so difficult with all of the smokes on site itself. Right? They can't even look beyond the stairs. There goes the first of the alarm bot. Go peeking out from Market. Not going to go too much further. J4 and holding it down here. Paranoia on the ground. Trying to fight back with a flashbang. But you walk onto the side and you are all gone. Cumberland Phoenix, the ball starting to roll. And the numbers coming back for them.
I was a little nerve-wracked there by JFO, and they looked like they were just swinging that alone, especially since JP was playing their life playing tucked. But the pop flash, the swing, the support from Boathouse looked fairly clean to close things out. And I mean, that exec was clean here as well. I wonder what would happen if Dadson didn't re-push stairs there. But again, this is the moment where things started to get clean, when JP finally swung out of logs, and it all came together for that 4th round in the half. And we mentioned it, this is a double sentinel composition, right? The 7-5, that's like a bare minimum in my mind here, right? And this is what they're kind of staring at here. They want that 8-4. They know that it could be a one-sided affair.
Oni.
It's a choice.
They've got a judge. They fly out from this. They try to catch someone. They get Fasu. But not much more beyond that. Oni. Take it down. Now. Spike eventually going to be making its way onto the site once the door goes down. Gotta watch out for these shock darts though, man. They hurt.
Spike planted.
What is going to be feeling the full impact of that? Now we have a 4v4 fight of a lifetime. Armageddon goes out. Poor JFO and being pulled in, but look who's been hanging out this entire time. It's JP. They gotta make their presence known eventually, right? They gotta go, but they stalled out by the caves. They look back over. Dadson seen them. Couple of shots out from here. Spike gets over to the defuse. Half now. Fight for the swing, but JP wins out in the 2v1. Cumberland Phoenix. The comeback that they needed. A 7-5 first half.
Call me a psychic, but JP comes alive when they need them to. No dilly-dallying with utility. No, Storm Grenades don't need them. Just quick, easy shots. And, I mean, the plant here actually kind of favored that, right? If it was a little bit to the right, it would have been a deeper angle. Would have been harder, I think, to switch targets. So avoiding the shock darts favors Cumberland in that situation. I did also like, even though I will say Arctic's utility still disrupted it, that forward pressure, you know, shooter on the elevated position, up generator, ready to fight heaven. Also able to avoid finally the spray down. It finally came together for Cumberland. They stumbled. They used both timeouts because they knew that was the difficult half here. And now they're on the defense here, and it's a double sentinel on the attack. They don't feel too scared, but they might need to. Look at this. 4 players stampeding through mid. No alarm bot in sight, but there are players. A paranoia at the ready.
Yep,
and a flash.
Oh, but they flashed. Masu couldn't go much further than that. Oni's double kill has won them out market. How much more can they? Oh, shooter! All right, we said you've been quiet this map, buddy, but that's one way to shout at the top of your lungs. But can you stop Arctic, the demon on the side of Cal Blue? Upgrade over from the classic to the ghost, but it's just 20 HP. That's barely nothing to work with here on a pistol round.
This is smart. You know, Woody was on site. You know, one's on spawn. Tree day should be, or tree day main, I should say. It should be the safe route here. But I'm worried that the longer contact isn't made, and the fact that Woody has cleared out tiles, how far does the jet go? Shooter, I was hoping maybe it would go A heaven. Maybe we'll still hear the spike tap regardless, so that they can group up and just play this together. Play down the time. They know this is an important pistol. They're taking every edge of caution.
For good reason.
They're going heaven?
Ooh, wait a second here. Catch someone off
smart.
guard. Yeah, it is. You have the time to work with. You may be able to catch shooter off guard. You absolutely are. Brilliant call from Arctic. I turned a 2v1 into a 1v1 for this post plant.
Okay, silver lining, full HP versus 20 HP, right? Decision not to pick up the sheriff either. Good utility in check as well. One shock dart and you are obliterated here if you're Arctic as well. But you will have your own kit to work with. Drone, your own recon.
Yeah,
You also have the element. Yeah.
Alright. Battle of the Sovas, Battle of Wills here. Arctic playing so far back, finally hearing the footsteps. They're going close. First recon bolt gonna be used. You know how dangerous this is. They know though. Woody!
No time.
Woody, you're running out of time. Yeah, just gonna have to run him down, get rid of Arctic, but now there is no more time. A beautiful play here from Arctic to clutch out the second pistol round and a perfect record for Cal Esports on Ascent.
Just completely disrespecting the discipline that Cumberland was exhibiting, right? Shooter thinking, I'm playing off, I'm playing safe, just waiting for the spike tap on A. To take initiative, they fight forward to get the 1v1 that they knew they could win out. And they put it to a textbook definition, not taking the fight because they knew they would lose it with that HP differential. But I like the kind of around the world shenanigans from Cal Blue. Again, it's a double sentinel. You don't have as much kind of forcible utility, no flashes. You still have your dive duelist, but shenanigans is what you need with this composition. So, the turret's main, they know the killjoys B. Add the weapon buy up. Pretty stark one at that, right? Vandal for Dadston here.
It's big.
This
big
gamble
firepower.
stack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure too here in the KJ utility is enough that we are getting some of those inklings of split leaking their way onto Ascent, right? The game plan. We see something that Cal Blue doesn't like on one site and they start gravitating towards other parts. And you can see that the ping's being called. Keep an eye on tree. Got Oni weaseling their way up through mid. with the Outlaw too, being that tip of the spear. First of the smoke's going to go up. Jay Fowen's going to miss out on all of the information there. There's no alarm bot, right? So all of this control inside of mid towards pizza into market is just not going to be happening there. And especially now that you've been shrouded by the dark cover, Cal Blue, they're still wanting to make this B site work for them, but instead of going in through main, it's all through mid. Eventually now, finally, the second of the smoke's going to be happening there. Crazy plays by Jay Fowen. You've gotten rid of Oni. And now it's just go back over towards the other side. But I don't even think that they realize what could be happening here. JP
down.
At the Vandal down. Now Woody and they're shot with the Sheriff. They're by themselves though, isolated in Boathouse and taken down by the net. That gives Arctic the chance to run in with the Bulldog. Now it's down to the 1v2. And Shooter, right? Correct the wrongs of the previous round.
They didn't get the Vandal stairs. There's a world where Shooter gets past this wall without them taking a sightline first, that things could go south. They hear the knife and they don't take the opportunity. The slim pickings here. Don't pick up the Outlaw, there's a Vandal. Get the Vandal. The dart's so good. They know the risk of letting them get even past stairs, and Goat takes the shot when the opportunity is gifted to get Cal Blue on to a 9th. Yeah, an expensive buy-up to only walk away with 2 players, but Cumberland, I mean, they don't have timeouts left. They have to win this rifle round, or we may just be seeing that map 3 of Icebox.
Hoping for it here. It looked like Cumberland Phoenix was putting up a strong showing to try and slow things down against Cal Blue, try to win out in this anti-eco. They did take a decent chunk of the weapons offline, right? Look at Cal Blue. Eventually, Oni's going to get their Vandal back in hand, and Sheriffs are going to be distributed throughout the rest of the squad. JP going to take down Goat. First of many obstacles that they had to fight against here. Had to be ready for the second Sentinel. They see the cam, a couple more shots from Dadston. Now it's just time to back away. The rest of Cal Blue is just fragmented all across the map. Especially when you're on the slider buy, right? You're trying to go for the ones, you're trying to go for the isolated picks, but Cumberland Phoenix isn't giving it to them very easily.
Shadows traveling.
Okay. And again, it's a slow, methodical default. Difference this time, I think, is that Goat falls, and Goat's kind of replacing your flashes here, right? Like, can't take the fight if you're netted or flashed in that situation. And, I mean, concern there is that, again, now you're gonna have multiple players that can take the fight, can take the angle on Oni, who looks like they're primed to dash in, right? Good shocks. Or just weather them. You're not gonna expect the killjoy here at 2 HP, right? Especially with Shooter fighting at a CT like this.
Ooh. Look who's weaseled their way all towards A. Sudge Bubby, right? They beat Fasal,
30 seconds
but Jay Fowen's also here. And you really don't even need to worry about the Omen if Cumberland Phoenix is doing this to the rest of your players in mid. So they know that Sudge Bubby was towards A. The 0.9 doesn't quite detect them, but that's where Shooter has a lockdown on tree anyways. Yeah, clean headshot there. Cumberland Phoenix stops a bonus, tries to put themselves back on that track.
Hey. Point 1. Again, maybe the shenanigans finally fizzling out. Shooter also coming online here. I talked about how they were kind of getting oppressed a lot in that first half. Like, they were trying to have these dives. Dadston was kind of besting them in most degrees. So, 3 rounds to go. We might be in them for the long haul in this map. I mean, think about it, right? We had the 7 rounds in a row, and then CU turns it around at the end of the half. They could do it again and, like, go to OT or something funky. But the difference here, look at this. A little bit faster pace out of Cal Blue. A stark challenge for a main, and the paranoia is perfect, and Shooter walks away with the first blood on the Goat yet again.
Yeah, you've lost your Deadlock Sentinel for the 2nd round in a row, the first one to fall. And JP has weaseled their way towards this corner. Probably some ideations that Woody's going to be able to hold him back. With a slight off angle here, JP forced to tuck back in, right? No HP. That gives Oni the chance to fight back with the wall bang. Woody's just out in the open, though. This sets Cal Blue up for everything that they could ever want and more. Way too dangerous here for them. Shooter is crazy, though. They just run onto the site. They know that the rest of the squad can't be too far behind. They got to be careful of what's in main and what could be up through lane. No way. No way they disrespect Arctic like that, Zobi.
Well, they just did, and that's your top frag for Cal Blue. And again, it feels like This is a situation where you should be favored with this double sentinel is on the site, but the retakes have been clean from Cumberland, filtering in one after another, coordinated. Vasu on the tap. The blade paranoia is good, but is it good enough? Seems to be the case. The tag team, the time being bought, only 6 bullets left, and the shots just aren't aligned. You're out of options. And the double swing. Can't 180, can't 360, can't 720. You're no Tony Hawk, and that's double digits for Cal Blue.
Yes, it is. Such a great way. But Cumberland Phoenix, right? That B defense. You're putting JP so deep into B main, right? You're KJ. That's the one who's supposed to be stopping the push, stopping Cal Blue from bullying that side. And once they realize, right, KJ's gone, you get rid of Woody too, who's just out in the open playing. The squad wants to play these off angles, but they aren't landing the rest of the shots against Cal Blue. And once those blocks topple, a valiant effort from the 3 players that were left alive for Cumberland Phoenix, but it's just not enough.
Okay. Slow. Maybe expecting some change up from Cumberland, especially with the blades popped. Beating out the one way. Vasu just playing for contact here. Cumberland. Again, they're playing the safe comp. Playing defense safe. Versus it was so rambunctious over on split. Okay, finally maybe stepping out of their comfort zone. Stepping into the garden to go exploring here a little bit. Got your KO for the trades. Ooh, if they went a little bit faster, the trap wire wouldn't have been up. But this is nice. You're pinched between the blades and the judge. So if you try to speed up without any utility, you're gonna run right into Vasu.
Yeah.
And Jay Fowen.
Jay Fowen gets rid of Sludge Bubby. Is your controller gone? Vasu. It's not in the nick of time, but they've been seen by the recon bolt. And I'm sure that you're also picking up that fragment grenade was perfect from Jay Fowen. Vasu gets to hold this angle for even longer. Now net towards the backside. And you're just gonna TP over up on towards the high ground. But there's no smokes for Cal Blue. They can't take this fight on A. They're gonna have to be forced to rotate. But they're running against the clock. And if you're Cumberland Phoenix, no one's gone through this smoke yet. The KJ is gonna come back over where all of the util is gonna come back online.
And that's the difficulty here. Talk about last half, right? JP was this permanent tiles lurk. That plan B. That wasn't the case here. Dazdin was playing with the team. So now when you have 10 seconds left and you've got to get into a site, it's so difficult. You're gonna get shredded by the utility.
There's no time.
You're gonna get challenged on site anyways because your other players just didn't want to brave through the molly. And just like that, you're forced to save your weapons and you're gonna hand over some upgrades in the meantime as well.
Okay. Good round here for Cumberland Phoenix, running down the clock against Cal Blue. Losing Sludge Bubby was the death knell for that round, right? You didn't have the smokes, and you spent so long at A that by the time you go all the way over to B, Cumberland Phoenix had the read. There was JP, right? They didn't get anyone, but they stalled things out. And leaving Arctic alone on the site was just so poorly played out there by Cal Blue.
Well, finally a shutout, but look at this. It's blackout bingo, right? Every ultimate for Cal Blue. I don't even know if Goat had the annihilation or if they were given it by falling to Shooter. But either way, this is the round definitely to turn around to keep the track up. It's also can be the damning round, right? Like if you lose all these ultimates and still don't get the round, that is Cumberland making a comeback, a turnaround. So this first blood is huge. There was nobody else on the side, nobody CT ready. They're all kind of smushed up here inside of Market. And they're lucky there wasn't a follow through. They're lucky this was a true to life default. Lean towards A. Now they see the mid trap brewing. They should speed up here.
This could even be better if Dazdin wanted to, but instead it's just play it safe. Play with the squad, get this round done, and put yourselves 2 away. Poor Sludge Bubby, though. Can't go any further than what the wall allows them to, but they still have a decent angle to take their fights. Dazdin keeps the flank safe with that tripwire, right? They eke by that there. This could just be, yeah, just go ahead, get rid of the trip, and start taking your fights here. I may expect a 1, but do they expect 3 from the flank? No, they don't. So far, it's just Shooter who's been detected there. Wine is unprotected. Here comes the Sonic Sensor stun. Arctic's been dealt with. Wine fallen. Now it's time to get your eyes on the site. Still on the high ground. Jake Bowen slowed down. Shooter going crazy. A triple kill now. As Goat does what they can. More unfortunately, they've been brought to the fields. Cumberland Phoenix puts us down to 2 away.
Ooh, boy, oh boy, was it a little close. Just under 3 seconds, but Again, they're looking colorful, they're looking dynamic here. I liked the 3 flank play. They're just disrespecting the Cypher utility. They're realizing, okay, maybe they are prepared for a double-pronged retake. And it seems like Cumberland isn't, or sorry, Cal Blue isn't. I think the good thing there for Cal Blue, right, is that they're staggering these ultimates, right? And we mentioned if they use all of them, then they might kiss this lead goodbye. Versus now on an eco, you have the chance to invest the blades, you have the chance to infect the annihilation. And these are tickets right back into rounds, even with the gun disparity. My concern, though, is Cumberland, like I mentioned, are heating up right when it matters. And if they can get these next few rounds without these ults can be used as closers instead of tires. So it's just going to turn up the pace. Oh, but the trade.
Trade happens there. The big important player that's still alive is JP, right? All of the swarm grenades. Oh my word! What a flick back over! And a near flawless round for Cumberland Phoenix. There's just one more to go, and it's tied up.
Wow. 10-9. Cal Blue, you got one more timeout left to... Probably gonna save that for a rainy day like a Cumberland victory or an overtime. But for the time being, Cumberland back on track. Shooter jumped from the bottom of the scoreboard 3-8 to the top at 17-13. And Jay Fowen's been right at their side, right? The 12 assists. They're always there for the trades when they're going out with the Blaze Storm. They're always there on the flank. That duo's synergy is off the charts right now. And now if you put Fasu at their side instead over towards A main, this should work just as well. Look at this. They're trying it again. For the judge. Clear behind. What? Wait, okay, no, they're sorry. They took the wrong corner.
They took the wrong corner.
If I'm tricked, imagine them.
JP's still here. JP was still there. Now we're hearing the Hunter's Fury. Dadson's double kill, but Cumberland Phoenix has trades across the board. Dadson's hanging on by a thread too, right? Barely any HP. Only suppressed out by the null command from Jay Fowen. Up through main, actually. That kind of leads the hand that tips the scales that maybe this player could be playing in this direction. They don't see Such Bubby over at main. Fasu gets over towards the safety in time. They had to be hearing that. They get away from the fragment. Utility out, Fasu. Gets the smokes up in the nick of time, but look over towards the other direction here. Cal Blue stops things off for a tie. Just 2 more rounds.
And those the big ultimates invested. Get the round done. Again, if it ain't if it doesn't work once, try it again, right? If you're Cal Blue, they still just deathball into the B site. It works. Are they gonna try it again here? I mean, there's still good weaponry here for the side of Cumberland. You still got the lockdown, the Hunter's Fury. I'm wondering again. Sometimes I'm an op hater, and I'll say it. The operator might be slowing the squad down. Again, Shooter was shooting, getting first bloods, getting retakes, and now, I mean, if you take them off the board like this, you post them up on a permanent angle like DP main, they're going to be a lot weaker on a retake. So 2 off from the blades, maybe get one B main, maybe get a frag, but in the meantime, again, you're nowhere near this fight for the A site, which feels intentional. Look, they're going to lock down it, but look at who's ready to counter. Cal Blue has already deposited Such Bubby this TP.
Okay. All right, Such Bubby. We saw the idea. We saw the what could have happened there, but yeah, this lockdown is going to push him back. Now you're going to layer in the Hunter's Fury. What a Hunter's Fury, by the way, Woody. You're protecting Jay Fowen with a defuse. Perfect layering of utility. Perfect layering of ultimates, and we're right back to the 1-round differential.
They are definitely riding this out to the grand finish line. Try to keep Winthrop and Baker waiting. I mean, I've seen this played out time and time again, right? A team sets up, gives up A for the retake, and then the team immediately floods in on the attack to counter it. But this felt fragmented. It felt like kind of half committed, right? They just trusted solely in Such Bubby, the brash TP, and it gets punished outright by their clone, by Fasu. So Cumberland, they use the ults to get the round. But again, those are traded out now for Cal Blue. And it's just, BBAB. See if B works this time around. Again, it hinges on if JP falls super early. And again, I love this position, and now the turret's kind of occluding them here. They don't know. They don't clear it.
Where's this going? Where's everything happening? JP still just gets to hold this angle. Meanwhile, making a lot of noise is Woody. A double kill for JP. Back over to the head. And now it's all down to the shoulders of Arctic. We know this player is insane, but 85 HP? They don't even get the Phantom. They had to have to use the Bulldog, and they still gotta go lane the Spike, because guess who has their eyes on it too? Is Shooter. First chance taken here. Jay Fowen down to low HP. Shock dart over in this direction. Shooter comes out of market swinging with a shorty. It's 11-11, Zobi. I feel like we've seen this somewhere before.
Well, I mean, make a wish. Cumberland to make another comeback. We want a 2-mapper here. But JP, they just don't care, right? Double shock darts, 2 HP. You know, a turret in front of them. They just have been playing from this log position, knowing that they just like to disrespect it, dash through it, right? Whether it's switch, whether it's the updraft over. And I mentioned it when it was Cumberland on the precipice of victory or the overtime prospect. The timeout for Cal Blue was going to come out. And, I mean, this round they kind of have a half-buy scenario. It's, again, Cumberland. They've been kind of sustaining themselves here with that 3, then that 2. It's been a clean turnaround so far. And you're 1 off the blade, so we'll probably see that before the regulations up. But outside of that, they used Dadston's neural theft really well last time, right? It allowed Sudge Bubby to scale up, take all of A, allowed them to have forward pressure. I wonder if that's going to be the strategy this time, because they've been very, like, commit, die trying type vibe the last few rounds, right, Sam? And maybe I think the defaults, the slow approaches, the informed decisions was where they were thriving, actually, against Cumberland Phoenix.
You know what else is a good strategy, Zobi? Getting exit lag, right? Exit lag helps to ensure better and faster connection routes to game servers, eliminating connection issues with a single button press. Check out code GGWP for 50% off. Get connected. Get the best possible connection that you can. Game like Valorant, where milliseconds matter. So important. For Cumberland Phoenix, Cal Blue, milliseconds are what could be determining so much here. Such Bubby suppressed out of their TP. Interesting. Yeah, just back them off, back it away. They know what's on the line here, coming off the back of that timeout. JP, instead of playing on-site where they've been doing it so many times before, is going to play off. First with the swarm grenade, is going to go out. That's enough to stall Cal Blue yet again. But again, we have a 2-2 split with 1 in mid. That's Arctic, by the way. Lone Wolf peeking back and forth, seeing if someone's going to come out of tree, seeing if someone's in mid. Bottom mid, top mid. Yeah, it's just, they're backing away. They have the spike, and Cal Blue's still struggling to figure out where they want to go.
And is it bad to say Arctic as well? Like, they've just been this spike shepherd, right? Like, I feel like they had so much potential as that anchor, as a Sova, right? In the first half, and that's just fizzled out here. Running between B, running between A. Okay, they're not gonna make that same mistake twice. Immediately clear out logs, and immediately storm your way onto the B site. Because again, the op's smoked off, you can't challenge. This could be the Cal Blue 12th, and again, it comes out of that slow default. Throw off Cumberland from their starting positions, and you blitz it.
Yeah, you just get back on there fast as can be. Shooter, though. Fast on the aim with the operator. Pops the Blaze Storm. It's time to take your fights, but you cannot leave main uncontested. You cannot do that. Nobody's seeing them, though.
Hello?
Nobody's seeing them. Jay Fowen, the flashbang works against them.
They're both so low, though. For these last 2 remaining players that are in Boathouse, they do have obviously Dadston at their side.
Oh, Shooter's full blinded. Full blinded. Again, these flash is just not working. Instead, it sets up Cal Blue for success.
Match point.
Oh my god. I mean, okay. Lot of things to discuss about that round. I mean, Cumberland, we kind of talked about this over on Split, right? What they were doing was working, so they didn't have to change it, right? On their defense, but JP, you played the same corner, you got burned for it. That's literally how that round evolves, right? Because JP was the hinge point. So what do they do? Get JP out of the way. Poke the operator up, really deep, really aggressive, and you'll come in with their smokes player as the first blood. You get some ping damage, but you're out, you're alive. And you're trying to push these players towards that killjoy. And I don't know if they're gonna fall for it, right? You're 1 off from Hunter's Fury, that's been achieved by Arctic. You have the tool to re-aggress here.
You're gonna have to, right? You cannot let this go to overtime for Cal Blue, but look at Goat, look at Dadston. Those shock darts, they hurt. The chip damage, they hurt. And now an Aldron's gonna come up from above? Oh, it sees everything. It knows exactly where Cal Blue's still hanging out. So you're not gonna leave here anytime soon. Instead, you're gonna post up a couple of players, 1 through A main, 1 in tree, and eventually wait for the tides to start coming in your direction. The first of the 0 point is going to be taken out, but Shooter does it again. The third time. They're just making it so easy for Shooter. Unbelievable! 1 more to go. We were talking about it, Obi. What is this operator going
see that fourth. And the ace is stolen, but I saw those forces crouching on the flank as well. I mean, that's one way to get to overtime. Okay. That's kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie.
No shooter doubters in chat, not today.
And apparently, I mean, I doubted at the beginning. And again, I mentioned it, like, whew. Usually the B site would fall because the off was just smoked off, but that opening frag, like I mentioned, on to Sudge Bubby, meant you couldn't smoke off CT. You couldn't occlude the sight line. Even with that net kind of Hunter Spirit combo, that was targeted at Jay Fowen in Market. So that didn't work out, and it still did not neutralize the major threat on that site. So we're heading into overtime, where the double sentinel's back on its side, back in its dominion here. But there's a 4-stack behind it. A hard call for B. Gonna play heavy retake on A. There's not even a sensor in main. Like, they've completely misread this.
They have. There. Meanwhile, Cumberland University, this is everything they could ever want. And they're putting the tempo on pace, too. Look at this. By the time they get the spike planted, Cal Blue is still making their way out through this site. Look at this.
Ooh, and this is them fixing every mistake. Versus now Cal Blue's forgetting what their win con was. Remember, it was Arctic anchoring from heaven. And now, JP, who is usually in hot water playing too long in tiles, is safe with the flank protected, playing with the squad, probably playing lineups, playing mollies. They have that elevated and forward position that I wanted from Presu and from Shooter. So this is looking strong, but it's still a 5-on-5 retake. Anything could happen.
Absolutely can. But you are starting to run out of time. Speaking of 5-on-5 retake, blink and you'll miss it round. The second Cal Blue makes their presence known, Cumberland Phoenix pushes them down. And now it is match and series point.
I mean, Sam, I blinked. I missed it. What happened?
Yeah, right?
Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think, like, the rounds that they were winning when closing out the A site, Arctic never left A Heaven, right? Like, they were consistently there. They were consistently fighting. I think we maybe had some wallbang shots, like, off the dart. But, again, they weren't really good at reclaiming that space. It was never letting go of it. It's like Titanic style. I'll never let you go. And I mean, at this point, I mean, they're about to drown in the ocean, right? Freeze to death.
No.
They're about to get to 14-12, right? But after what was a really strong first half.
Zoe, you're not supposed to be making me cry on the podcast right now. You're making me feel things. All right, Odie's gonna be feeling that headache in the morning. Sheesh. Again, these rounds are happening so fast. And you never really know what's going on, but it's all Cal Blue. It's all Sudge Bubby. A 1v2 against Fasu and JP.
Minute
They're not
to go.
doing anything.
I mean, I would neither. Remember? What was the one round that Arctic clutched out by isolating a player with some insane timing, tactics, insane soul read at an individual level. And now look, you even have your back covered by the turret. You know, you got like a back-to-back scenario going. You are waiting until that spike gets planted here. 40 seconds left. No utility left for Sudge Bubby is the hardest thing here. If we're correct on the UI.
30
It
seconds
is. All right, it's time to go. It's time to push it in. They got their smokes back up. They see the paranoia coming through stairs. JP makes first contact, makes last contact. Cumberland Phoenix. And a rip roar showing of Ascent. No fake comebacks here, Zobi. It's real. 14-12 on Ascent.
And boy, oh boy, did we push the timer on that one. You know, there were doubts. There was prospects of going to a map 3. And I think House did, like, Blue, they came to do what they, like, wanted. They proved that they are not to be underestimated. Even if they didn't take a map off of Cumberland in my mind, like, it still was a strong showing. Like, I'll keep an eye on them, like, in the future, right? In coming seasons, right? Maybe forgot about them from their SJSU CECC West regional game, but not gonna forget about their CVAL championship journey, right? I mean, they out-survived every other West team, even if there were bigger fish to fry in those parts of the bracket. And I mean, they had really good calls, and you can see that they put in the work on the defensive side with this changed double sentinel. And I mentioned it, with more time, this squad could really grow because they scaled extremely fast. But for now, they are eliminated. Cumberland Phoenix continue the lower bracket run, where they are going to have to face off against the winner of St. Clair Saints versus Northwood.
Yeah.
So they're not done. They're not even close.
Oh no, they're about to be in for the fight of a lifetime between one of those two teams. But The South has defeated the West. They get to move on.
Again.
Yeah, again. And now, Zobi, we're going to go ahead and close things out real quick here because we do want to get set up for the Winthrop University v. Baker matchup happening very soon here. Well, we're actually going to hold on for a second. We're going to work on team stats. We want to give these players their due diligence. We want to give them what they deserve and a chance to be able to show off, especially for some of the naysaying that we were feeling towards Shooter, who really came alive in that second half of the second half with the operator.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing my research on both of these teams, and I'm like, not like standout duelists on either side, right? It's not your, your Zakin. It's not like your Jogamos. Like, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, that's their win condition. It was usually very well-rounded or support players stepping up. We mentioned Such Bubby, we even mentioned Arctic for Cal Blue, but Shooter, not even doubting Shooter, but I doubted the operator pickup, and I'm like, it's slowing him down. He was aiming before the operator, and like 2 rounds later, it's like 4K, ace denied. But it, like, okay. I mean, I do think I'm still not sold on the ping ascent. Like, to me, move it down a little bit in your map pool, not gonna lie. But all in all, they gotta get the reps in before they get to, the end of the CVAL champs, before you get into those best of 5s. So better now when it's like, again, quote unquote easier opponents. Again, maybe they underestimated Cal Blue there a little bit. But overall, they get the job done, they get the 2-0, and they go about their business.
Yeah, that Ascent game was spicy from beginning to finish. Never really knowing how it's going to end up until obviously overtime, where again it came down to that 1v2, and so far it had been notorious for the clutch out factor that Cal Blue was giving us. It was just a great map all around to be able to witness, and I'm sure that this gave, at the very least for Cumberland Phoenix, a grand opportunity to VOD review, figure out where they need to tighten up and batten down the hatches. And it's also really difficult when you're working against the double sentinel. And we also mentioned it at the very beginning of Ascent that this standard composition of Ascent had kind of been falling to the wayside. And so to still be able to eke out the win, it's very big here. But we got the post-game statistics. Cumberland Phoenix versus Cal Blue. You can see right now that Shooter top of the leaderboard, match MVP with 25, but the rest of the squad for Cumberland not falling off too far on the wayside either.
No, for sure. Arctic, again, we talked about that first half. It'll be burned into our memory. Dadston map 1 was out of the park, and they still, again, did a really good job keeping Shooter down when they were on the defense. It was truly just, again, once they got onto attack, they lost steam because of double sentinel. They also were losing GOAT really early on because of Shooter, and I mentioned the impact that has when you already are running a comp that doesn't have flashes, so that has to be your main dive kind of joint utility piece with that net. But all in all, I mean, players for, the side of Cumberland also heated up when you needed them to. JP in particular, remember that clutch? That's going to also, I think, live in infamy for the Cal Blue squad around. They should have won. But all in all, what a good map. And again, Cumberland 2-0 after that 14-12 on Ascent to advance in the lower bracket of CVAL Championship 2025.
Absolutely. But now it is indeed time for us to close things out here for this portion of the broadcast. But literally, don't go anywhere, because in like 15 to 20 minutes, it's going to be the Winthrop versus Baker matchup. And if there was ever a match to watch, it is going to be that one. So don't go anywhere. Like I said, myself and Zobi are done for the evening. We're going to be switching it over to Infernosis and Jackson 5K, who will be guiding us through that series. But until then, we'll be right back.